I'm just gonna check some things and make sure that we're on the right channels and all that. Yeah, okay, good. What? Don't go too far deep into it. But what'd you watch that you wanted to talk about?
The movie Fall.
The girls climbing the tower.
Girls climbing the tower. Yeah.
Great.
And I have a healthy fear of heights, and so it was the scariest shit I've seen in a while.
I'm so glad I'm not alone on that. Everybody makes fun of me, but it's like that's the first movie in a long time I've had to like actively look away from.
Yeah, it's like if you have a fear of spiders and you watch Arachnophobia. Like it's a whole different kind of scary. And I had sweaty palms through that entire movie.
Yeah. Yeah, legit. I'm terrified of heights, and I was watching that, and it was just one of those like, so my girls really wanted to watch it, maybe like half a year ago, or something, and I was like, well, let me check it out first. So I'm watching it by myself, relatively big TV, by myself, basement, dark lights, and I was just like playing Marvel Strike Force to just not feel anything, just like
calm down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. That's working. It looks like. Okay. All right, sorry, I just want to make sure everything's up and running. It looks like everything is, so we are good. So I was playing Marvel Strike Force just to like calm my nerves, essentially, which is a weird sentence, but I swear to God, it's the truth. And I watched it again with them after telling them how scary it was. And watching it with people, not nearly as scary. Watching it knowing what happens, not nearly as scary. So they're like, what was so scary, Dad? I'm like, shut up. All right. Looks like we are live on all of my stuff as well yours.
Yeah, it looks like my chat's in your chat.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like the chats are blended, which is fantastic. Which is exactly what we want.
That's cool.
So, awesome. What did you, other than being scared, what did you think of Fall? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Too afraid to enjoy it? That's fair.
No, you know what? It did what it was supposed to do, which was scare me a lot because I have a healthy fear of heights, and I was very, very scared. I didn't think the acting was great. The plot points were predictable and lame and dumb. The whole idea of this movie was ridiculous. They could have come up with way better reasons for these girls to climb up there. And when they get to the top, and I'm like when she's scrolling through her phone, spoiler for those who haven't seen it, when she's scrolling through her phone and she's like, oh, who's this hand in the photo? I see that. And she's like, oh, don't look at that. I'm like, yeah, that's her boyfriend. That's her boyfriend. I know this. I know what's happening here. And it was just a matter of time until that came out. And that didn't even need to be in the movie. It was dumb. It was just dumb.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. I didn't mind it, but like you're right. You see all of it coming. Honest to God, if I'm the one that she's like convincing to go for a hike up this mountain with, or this tower with, and she starts shaking the cage, I'm like, no, fuck you, I'm done. Like I'm just leaving right now.
Right.
Like I'll see you back at the bottom. Redemptions aren't on Thursday nights, Emma. They never are because we're on Restream. We're not on OBS. Sorry about that. I will put that in the chat. I don't know if runs are working or not. I'm assuming not.
I don't know if mine are on or not. I need to turn mine off. The scariest parts of the movie was when the blonde chick would be like arguing with her at the top of this tower, not holding on to anything. And I'm like, a gust of wind is gonna take you off this. Like, bitch, grab the tower. That was killing me.
Yeah.
Oh.
I watched the movie last night after I gave up on Star Citizen with my wife.
Oh, my channel points are disabled too, so we're good. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. It is the new one on Netflix, well, relatively new, called Carry On. With
I've been wanting to watch that.
Bateman?
Yeah.
With Jason Bateman, yep. And I thought it was Ewan McGregor. I thought Ewan McGregor was in it, sorry. But is it Taron Egerton? Is that the right name? I'm not sure if it is. He's the kid from Kingsman. And it's got some really, really stupid parts to it. But overall, we really enjoyed it. Like, again, like fairly predictable action movie, but relatively tense. One of those like, oh man, what would you do in this situation type of a thing. I thought it was great. I mean, I thought it was very watchable.
Oh, good. I'm gonna take a look at it.
Nice.
Will, what you been watching?
Hiding from Real Life. Yes, I believe that would be turned off.
Alien Romulus. I don't know.
Hey, I saw that too. We should talk about that.
Yeah.
I haven't been watching. I haven't been watching any movies. Just TV shows, mostly reality trash.
What? Oh, I like a good trash reality television show. Are you watching Beast Games right now?
I am watching Beast Games. Yeah,
excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, it's trash.
Yes, it is trash. Yes, they're all trash. Come on.
Yeah,
they're my guilty pleasures.
Yeah, and there's 2 different seasons of Traders running right now, so I'm watching that.
Okay, I haven't watched Traders.
Yeah, I don't know.
You'd like the Traders. Check out the Traders. Yeah, it's
what's
it's
that streaming
on? I want to say Crave in Canada, so I don't know what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what does Crave cover. It covers a whole lot of different things in the US. I'm not sure what though.
I know in Canada on Crave you get a lot of the HBO Max series stuff, don't you?
Yes, but I don't think it's through that.
I don't know that it is HBO Max, but if you have it on Crave, there's a decent chance it's on HBO.
I'll do a quick Peacock.
How's it going, Strategist? Good to see you.
I don't have Peacock anymore.
Good to see you, Commander Foss. Gentlemen and Mongoli, you're a jerk. Glad you can make here again, Steven. Good to see you figured out what days Thursdays are. Real life, unfortunately, it doesn't look like the Bits redemptions work other than the lights go off in the background, which, if that's enough for you, go for it. But TTS isn't going to work on Thursdays, unfortunately, but we will be back on Saturday morning to do, the regular Saturday morning nonsense. Beast Games is through Prime.
Yeah, Beast Games is through Prime.
Yeah. I saw the first episode.
It's like Squid Games, right? Like a real life Squid Game, which they've done that too. So it is what it is. It's just got huge amounts of money in it, which is, I guess, the appeal to people.
If you're not watching American Primeval, you have no taste. The ad for that one looked good, but I haven't had a chance to actually sit down with it yet.
Oh yes, I've heard that was good. I want to start watching that one there. Sorry, people who are over in my chat. I didn't have the movie night settings. You were just staring at my face, listening to these guys talk. So I got things squared away now.
Okay, so now we are live on your channel.
We've been live on my channel. It's just it doesn't look like I don't know for sure if my chat is. It doesn't look like my chat is combined with yours, but I have your chat on the screen now.
I'm on your chat, and it's coming through when I type.
Because I've got a lot of
this.
I mean, it was.
I don't know.
So I'm here. Can I show you
this? On Dan's channel, everything's working just fine. On my channel, I'm only seeing my chat, and that's fine with me.
Right?
Yeah. Can jump over to Dan's or open a multiple windows or whatever. It doesn't matter. And then I just have a window. I made it so that Dan, your chat is showing up on screen. So when people watch this again on YouTube or something, they can see everything.
Right. Looks like Steven was saying you might be able to watch some free things on the Peacock app. So Traders might be on there for free. I don't know.
I'll check it out. I'll put it.
Anyway, it's like a live game of werewolf where some people are selected as traders, some people are selected as faithful, and faithful are trying to get the traders out. And every night the traders murder one of the faithful.
Ooh.
And then it goes down to at the very end, if the faithful get all the traders out, the faithful share the pot. If the traders get all the faithful out, or if there's one trader left, they take all the money no matter who else is left in the game.
Okay.
Ooh.
So it's pretty fun because you get to see people like trying to be sneaky and lying and deceiving and things like that.
That actually sounds really good, like layers of strategy on that. Because if you're a trader, you may want to let some of your fellow traders get out.
Absolutely. Some get eaten up.
I feel like you've mentioned this before, or somebody has mentioned this before, but
the idea
of the TV show based on werewolf sounds very familiar.
Yeah. I think I mentioned it a while ago, but it's just like there's new seasons out right now, so that's why I'm kind of back into it. But
gotcha.
It's fun for trash.
Who was it? Bubba Hotep, can't wait to start the new season of Reacher. I loved the first season of Reacher. The second season was very ridiculous, and like the last, I don't know, half of an episode or something especially just felt like 1980s Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was just so dumb. I haven't seen a trailer for the new season, but I'm not as excited for it as I was excited for when season 2 came out. Have you guys seen any of Reacher? Do you even know what that is?
I haven't watched it at all. I know what it is. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, Jack Reacher, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen
didn't Tom Cruise play him in a movie once?
Yeah, and he's 100% the right build for that guy too. That's exactly who that book character is based
all
on.
about attitude, man.
No, the new guys, I don't know if he's like a great actor or anything, but he fits that role really well. He's just like a massive dude who just goes around just doing whatever he wants pretty much in the name of good.
He's reaching people.
Womp womp. Now, I just put a video out on my YouTube channel about the new Daredevil Born Again trailer. Have you guys seen that? Or have you guys watched the Netflix show?
I mean, I watched the original, yeah.
I loved the original. I actually watched the first season again maybe like 6 months ago, and I just didn't watch 2 and 3. I just got busy with other stuff. Having the first seen this trailer,
the one.
You're not wrong. It is the best of the 3. But having seen this trailer, knowing that it comes out in March, I'm like, ooh, I could probably squeeze out 2 seasons in the next month and a half and be ready to go for it. But go check the trailer. Go check my trailer reaction out. But go check the actual trailer out because it looks solid.
Go check the reaction video. It's better.
Yeah, there you go. Let me promote myself for a minute as I feel awful. Played Aquaman on Smallville. I didn't realize that. I never watched Smallville. Smallville seems like it would be a decent show, except for it's been out for so long now that, like, I don't know if I got 10 seasons of 24 episodes in me. You know, like that's a lot of television.
What's this? I keep seeing like a different, it looks like a different WB Superman other than Smallville. Clark Kent's a little bit older. I see lots of clips of this on YouTube. It's kind of weird. There's one where he fights, I think it's Bizarro, who is then transformed into something akin to Doomsday. There's like a weird, I just catch all these clips on YouTube and they're kind of weird.
I know the show you're talking about. I haven't seen it. I've been hearing good things. Like it sounds like that show from the 90s. It's something like Lois and Clark.
I think that's
like
it.
The New Adventures of Superman or something. Like it sounds like it should be Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher or something, but it's new.
Right.
I hear good things. Adventures of Superman and Lois. There you go. Dan, I shouldn't be surprised you didn't watch a good show. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Whoa.
I mean, 24 episodes is a lot these days. And especially like 10 seasons. Like that's 240 hours of television. You haven't missed anything yet, Elder Jim. We're just kind of
warming up, shooting the breeze about movies and whatnot. I started watching The Bike Riders, and I'm really enjoying it.
It looks really good. That's the one we saw the trailer for.
Yeah, Tom Hardy, who's one of my favorite actors. I'm halfway into it. So far, I am thoroughly invested in the movie. I just haven't, I got to watch things in like 15, 20-minute chunks. It's a really cool quasi-documentary of the beginning of the beginning of like the Hell's Angels, I guess, or something. I don't really know how based in reality is, but it's great. It's great. So
it looks really good. Like it looks fantastic. It's Austin Butler, is it not? The guy who played Elvis?
Hell if I know.
Okay, fair enough. Well, you're the one watching it. I figured maybe you'd have a chance.
Yeah, Dan's asking me a question in private chat. Yeah, we can talk about it. So I'll let chat know. I'm probably going to be taking a new job soon, and that new job is 60 hours a week, and it's 3 a.m. to 3 p.m., and it's not going to leave me any time to do movie night on Thursday nights. I have this week and next week for sure, and then the new job may kick in by then, and we don't know what I'm going to be doing as far as the movie night is concerned. I want to continue, but moving to a weekend time slot is tough, and so we don't know. We've just started talking about it today, and so I don't know what we're going to do. The new job looks fantastic. It's going to be lots and lots and lots and lots of money, and that's kind of what I need right now. But it's a lot of work too, and but anything to get me away from the current job. I'm really unhappy with my current job.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. I'm glad you're moving on from that. That's awesome.
Yeah. For sure.
And we'll obviously something out, whatever it is, it's all good.
Well, that's like we haven't like Will's been relatively quiet in our little group chat, so I don't want to put him on the spot here by any means. But I am curious if there is a time we can figure out that the three of us can make this work, because honestly, this is like the highlight of my week.
Mine too. Yeah.
And even if it's like, not a great time for viewership, the three of us just hanging out talking movies, and then I can make this put on YouTube or something, like at least that's better than nothing. But at the end of the day, I'm just so happy that Run's going to be going into a job that hopefully he likes more and that pays him well enough to
we'll see.
Survive.
The ride along is tomorrow, and I'll be asking a lot of questions and making sure I know exactly what I'm getting into this time, because I didn't ask enough questions in the one and only interview. And it turned out they just wanted somebody with a pulse and a CDL. And they'd tell me anything I wanted to get me on. This new job, the pay is almost too good to be true. And so I kind of want to go find out what the catch is. And there could be a major catch. And then I have a secondary job, though. So I will be quitting the city no matter what.
Nice.
I have like, so there just came a point one day at work, and I was like, fuck this. And I put out, in over the span of 2 days, I put out 35 applications.
Nice.
Upload my resume and stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna get out of here. So I have plenty of opportunities to go elsewhere, but most of the job opportunities are just something a little better, but not great. But this one job could mean a lot of financial freedom, just zero time to do stuff. There's a slim possibility that I could be streaming 4 or 5 days a week right after work for 1 hour before my kids get home from school. But I gotta know, it's like shaving things real close.
Yeah.
So I would love to get back to 4 or 5 days a week on a regular schedule. That sounds amazing to me. But I might be trying to ask too much of myself with 12-hour days and then
13-hour days every single day.
See how the days go.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. It's real early yet, but I'm just happy to be getting out of that. So we'll see.
That's great.
Does Run put out for a job with money? So I originally had my own company, and I ran my father's company before that, and I made plenty of money, and it was really good. And I worked really hard. I worked 90-hour days to make really good money. I didn't even realize how good of money it was. And then I gave all that up to come be a stay-at-home dad. And that was great for the first year and a half until reality caught up with us, and some of our planning wasn't worst case scenario enough. And so I started going back to work more and more and more. And now it's like, let's quit screwing around. Let's just get some money again and get things going. So I'm planning on working this new job for a couple of years and getting some good money for a while. And then hopefully by then my wife will be my sugar mama for reals this time.
Well, legitimately, I wish you all the best.
Dan's saying goodbye already.
That's it. Yeah, right. Like it feels like it. It feels like it.
He's texting other content creators right now. Yeah. He's like, I got a chair that's open.
Wow. Wow.
I've actually been texting them for weeks. This just makes my life so much easier.
He's like,
I had the text ready to go, like, Run, I'm sorry, this isn't working out, my guy. It's not you, it's me, blah, 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 blah. And he's just like, hey, guys, I might have to leave the show. I'm just like, Del Tita, moving on. Bubba, it's happening. Oh, man. No, I don't know what this looks like. If you do have to walk away permanently, I don't know what happens to our rating or with anything else, but hopefully
I sure hope I don't.
Figure something out.
So much fun here. At the very least, I'd like to at least be a guest on the new show if that happens or something once in a while. I don't know.
I'm trying to get guests forever. Ironic if our first one is you.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh man. All right. We don't have anything lined up ahead of time. Do you have anything else movie-wise you want to talk about? Do you want to just jump right into this?
I'm actually kind of getting anxious to get to Romulus. I am too. I went and did my scoring while we've been bullshitting here, and I'm actually kind of surprised at where my score landed. So I think this might fluctuate a lot.
That's fair. This is one where I could see this episode going a little bit long, not only because I think there's probably quite a bit to talk about in this movie, but also then we can go over the series as a whole.
The whole franchise, yeah.
And then at the end of this, I do have a quiz ready to go, but it is a quiz over the Alien franchise, not just of Alien Romulus. So
that's huge.
I hope you guys have been paying attention the last 2 months, because wow,
I have not.
Aliens just feels like it's been going on forever. I'm not complaining. I've enjoyed most of them to some extent, but I think having that Christmas break in the middle of 7 movies, whew.
Right.
But do you have a synopsis for us, Will?
Sure. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You've been lead. I don't know if you watched the YouTube edits, but you've been like starting the shows off the last couple of weeks, and I think I agree. Like I asked you guys in chat, you're like, "What do you guys think? Do you think you start off with me doing the nonsense, or like just Will going straight into it?" And you didn't respond. Brian did, but I agreed with what he said. Like they do just kind of grab you a little faster.
Do whatever you want. I'm happy to grab people faster.
Okay, you do you.
It makes me almost want to try when I write these up, though, which is, I don't know.
Gosh, wouldn't that be a world?
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen. Here we go. Alien Romulus 2024. A handful of young, disgruntled colonist workers steal a mining hauler to pull a heist on their company's research vessel so that they can all abandon their contracts with their employer. Luckily, the company has a failsafe in place to make these thieves' lives a living nightmare. Let's get into it.
I like that. Okay, you say the company has a failsafe to keep their lives a living nightmare. Like, are you talking about the alien on the space station?
Pretty much, yeah. It's just the aliens going to murder everybody.
Fair. Okay, so that brings up a decent question that I have: is if this planet is run by Weyland-Yutani, I assume they have a spaceship so they can do like hauling from one location to another. Like it's a work ship essentially, and they're not allowed to actually just get up and leave. Why does Weyland-Yutani not notice that there is a giant space station in orbit
Very good question.
these kids figured it out? Like that was a big thing where I'm like, can't Weyland-Yutani go up and check this? Like this is a massive resource of theirs. You'd think that they'd want to go get it, unless they know what happened on the ship and then it's a death trap and they're just like, F it. Let orbit handle it.
They have not shied away from death traps ever, it seems. So
True.
I don't
That's
know
a fair
why
point.
they didn't just get on this ship ASAP. In my mind, it doesn't make any sense.
So,
Cool. Okay, I'm glad I didn't miss something.
in a lot of the content that is outside of the cinema, there is this black site lab. That's what they always are. Super duper secret. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. They're against all the rules. And if anybody were to find out what was going on in there, the company would be in big trouble. And so a lot of times, nobody knows that that's happening, right? It's against regulations and stuff. And that's the only logical explanation I can come up for. And they don't mention anything like that in this movie. They could have put in a simple bit of dialogue to explain this problem away. There's lots of clever ways that you could be like, hey, we couldn't go do it. It wasn't allowed, or nobody's supposed to know we're here, or we're in big trouble, or whatever. But they don't ever say anything about that. And it's like, why don't they just fly up there and grab their stuff? Why?
I mean, in this iteration of Alien, I kind of feel like it's similar to Alien 3, Alien 2. There's just an egg on Alien 3 on the ship randomly, and you just accept it. And this one is, they, one in a bazillion chance, pulled this alien from the first Alien movie out of space. You know what?
Yeah.
They just happened upon it, and they
really
they
didn't
nailed it.
like the wreckage of the Nostromo being clustered together. Now, keep in mind, this is right after the Nostromo wrecked, so it hasn't been 50 years or anything like that. But it's still a lot of time. Enough time that it's not going to be clustered the size of a Ziploc bag. Like, it's going to be spread over gazillions of miles of space. Now, I know, like, every science fiction movie does a space dogfight where they're flying right by each other. And the reality is, if you were going to have a space fight, you'd be going over millions of kilometers, shooting missiles that didn't connect with their target for days or something. So I get it. They shrink it down. But they put the freaking frozen alien space peanut right in the middle of all that stuff too.
I know.
Couldn't they fly past the Nostromo wreckage written on the side of the ship and then fly a little ways further and go find it? Like just a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, and like I'm gonna have a clip here of the explosion. Like everything from that ship should be liquefied,
Just vaporized,
and whatever is left is flying at 1,000,000 miles per second in every direction for 20 years in space. So there's no gravity to slow it down. Like nothing should be anywhere close to the wreckage of the Nostromo, let alone close to each other. Like it doesn't make a lick of sense. But it's science fiction, and this is how we need to find an alien. So be it.
Dive in this film. Don't worry, I've got my scene. I'm just waiting to jump in on where I get really pissed about physics, just getting shit all over.
Acid blood.
Don't get there yet, Dan.
All right, fair enough. Oh my goodness.
So they wanted the dumbest of their viewers to understand that they found the Nostromo wreckage, picked up the alien carcass, which was frozen in space, took it to a space station and cracked it open. I don't like the way they showed it. I think they could have done a little bit better job there. I would have taken some dialogue on a computer screen that says, you know, the space probe found the wreckage of the Nostromo and then later picked up the alien and brought it to the space station, and then go into the space station scene. That would have been fine with me. We've seen them explain stuff as dialogue on a computer screen, the typing out. And that would have been fine with me. I mean, other than that, them cracking open the egg was the space peanut thing was really kind of cool. I like that on the ship. That looked neat. It's kind of fun. And of course, and I'm gonna tell you guys, the scoring on this movie scored 100 for me. It was perfectly scored. The music was amazing. Yeah. The sound effects were amazing. And so the buildup of sound when they're cracking that thing open, the sound of that laser getting more intense and all that, and they pop that lid and the music builds up and the camera pans under and you see the alien outline in the shell was way cool.
The music is incredibly hard. The sound, I guess, is incredibly hard for me as well. And I was thinking of you while I was watching this because so many of those space scenes were maybe not entirely quiet, but super muted. And I was just like, oh, Run's going to like this.
I liked it, yes.
Yeah, the idea of devoid of sound, right?
Yeah. Yep. And it worked really well. Like, it really did. Ironically, in the vastness of space, it almost made it feel kind of claustrophobic. Like, you were kind of like locked in those moments where it was super quiet. I really liked that.
There's another sequence that we'll get to where we'll talk about some sound and we'll come back to this big time because the sound was amazing. Go ahead, Will. What were you saying?
No worries. Let's just say now that we're talking about some good points, I feel like Fede, is his name Fede Alvarez, the director, writer, is great. He also did the Evil Dead remake that we watched. He does a great job of bringing us back and making us feel like we are in the movie that we loved. In this case, we've got all the light buttons on the ships. Everything looks dated. Everything looks like the same technology that we left Alien when we watched it. And I think Alvarez does a really good job of bringing those worlds back to life in a really good way. Lots of practical effects in this movie, done really well. And yeah, I can't compliment him enough on that. Other writing things, I may have other issues with.
I noticed the same thing with the ship. I'm going to just kind of take that ball and run with it for a second, because not only are you right, it does do a great job of looking much more like the 1979 original than Prometheus or Covenant do. But kind of like we discussed, I didn't have a problem with that because the ship in 1979, the Nostromo, is like a mining ship. It's being run into the ground. That thing might have been around for like a century or something. It, like, who cares if it doesn't work 100% properly? So that can be really old. Whereas the ship in Prometheus is holding the president of the Weyland-Yutani company. Well, just the Weyland company at that point, I guess. It makes sense that it'd be like a luxury ship. Like, it would look so much better. And then again, in this one, we're going back in time. Well, I guess forward in time from Prometheus, but whatever. But again, it's this little ship that these like kids on a dirt planet are running around in, it makes sense that it's not high tech. It kind of worked for me. And even visually, it looks like the Nostromo, but it still looks better than a 1979 version of the Nostromo. You know what I mean? Like, it looks like the technology makes sense for the universe, but brought forward. Whereas like Prometheus, they just said, F it, like it looked science fiction-y.
Right. Yeah, Wayland drove a Cadillac, they're driving a Pinto.
Yeah, overall, I didn't mind the difference between the Prometheus effects and futuristic looking things for the most part. Some of like the spacesuit stuff I wasn't too keen on, but they didn't wear them for most of it, so who cares? But yeah, I felt like, and I feel like Alvarez does a really good job of finding those details and ensuring those details are accurate to the originals, and making us feel like we're back in that world. I think it does a really good job, and I think other movies don't even think about those things, like other franchises a lot of times. So you do get like, why is the tech so much more advanced when it's in the past or whatever future or same time period? Star Wars comes to mind when I think of those things.
Sure.
But Alvarez did a really good job of making this feel authentic to the Alien universe in the time it was set in.
No, I completely agree.
He blended several of the movies into this in several different ways. Right from the jump, though, you're right. The ships. There's Wapo right in my stream. Thanks, Wapo. Okay.
Take a second till I can stop stream.
We're live recording.
Appreciate you, Wapo. You're the best.
I do appreciate you, Wapo. For those
Feel
of
free
you
to start that whole sentence
chat,
again.
You can also jump over into Dan's stream. You might get a little better chat experience. They can see you from my chat, but my chat can't seem to see Dan. So anyway, thank you for the raid. So he blends the original Alien movie. We have the ships, right? We have a lot of the same music and scoring again, that they take the original stuff and they build on it and they blend it and they adapt it to different scenarios. It was beautifully done. It sounded amazing. And then you have a little piece of like if you watch, there's a little something from every movie in this. He took a little bit from everything.
I couldn't find something from Resurrection, but I got something from every movie except
yes and no, I guess.
Okay. If you're gonna talk about the monster at the end,
sure.
Okay. Okay. But I mean, like, there's a direct 1-for-1 in other categories. You got Ash from the first movie. You've got a couple of quotes in Game Over, Man, and Get Away From Her, You Bitch from Aliens.
Which I hated the Get Away From Her, You Bitch.
Oh, that was the
such
worst.
A terrible delivery. That was so
if he just said "get away from her," I would have been okay with it.
Leave
and then he's like,
out.
"You bitch," and he did like the stutter.
Absence of sound. Use the absence of sound here. Yeah. We know what's supposed to be there. Let our imagination fill that last word in. It would have been great. He had no reason to use that word there. It was dumb. I did not like that.
Yeah, everything about that bothered me. Everything else I was kind of okay with. Like the Game Over, Man, when he's playing a little arcade game, I was okay with that. Bringing Ash back, I thought they actually did a really good job with that. I thought he looked fantastic, especially for an actor who's no longer with us.
With Rook, I got to disagree with Rook.
What's that?
Okay, when you watch this, and of course I've watched this like 7 times now. When you watch it and you see the like full shot of Rook sitting on the table talking to them, it's very well lit. It's very bright. And for me, it put it in the uncanny valley because I could see it too well and it bothered me. They should have made it much more darker because when you see everybody else in the room, it's a very dark room. It's not very well lit. So for some reason, when they show him and show his face and they're trying to show off what a great special effect they did, it's way too bright and I can see it too clearly. And then everybody else is dark. It was not good. I did not like the way they did that. I wish they would have put it in shadow, made it hard to see. Learn from Alien 1. You barely see the alien at all because they make it dark and they cover things because they didn't have the tech to do it right. We still don't have the tech to bring Ash back to life as the character Rook, and they shouldn't have tried so hard. They should have hit it more.
I'll agree that there's a little bit of uncanny valley there, but honestly, it didn't bother me as much. Like I thought that it was a smart way of bringing.
I just wish they would have hit it better.
I thought it was smart to bring back that robot because we've seen them use the same robots over and over again with David and Walter, potentially with Bishop. Although I think we did conclude that was a human at the end of the movie. So the fact that like they would be using the form of Ash with different names made sense. And obviously, is it Ian Holm?
Yes,
is
Ian
no
Holm.
longer with us at the time of this recording. Also, I did not realize that Ash is Bilbo Baggins. That threw me for a loop when I looked that one up. So
Ian
I thought
Holm is Bilbo Baggins. Yes.
Yeah. To do it as well as they did, could they have done it better? Sure. Could they have hidden it a little bit better? Sure. But it didn't take me out of the movie at all. I've only seen it once. I haven't seen it 7 times yet. But the first time that I watched this, I thought it was a pretty good effect, and I thought it did what it needed to do very, very well.
I felt it hit the brakes for me. It took me right out when I first saw it. I was like, I appreciate you trying. That's cool, but you guys failed on this one. Will, what did you think of it?
I'm of mixed feeling. So Alvarez did the right thing. He contacted Ian Holm's wife and family to ensure that it was okay to use his likeness and to mimic his vocals to play this part in the movie. And they gave his blessing, and I'm sure they probably got some money out of it somewhere down the line. So that was good. He went about it the right way. Was it necessary? I don't think so. I think it could have been any different android or synthetic being, could have been there and done that. And I agree, it is Uncanny Valley. When they do the full-on face dub CGI, it looks wrong. And it does take me out, because if you want to honor somebody like that, you want it perfect. And you just can't quite get it there yet, I don't think. So Run's suggestion of shadowing it more, or even later in the film, he's mostly on like the display screens, and it's like all grainy and things. And that, gives you head and shoulders a better picture, or a more believable picture of this android. But overall, it hit me, and it did take me out on first viewing for sure. And then you just kind of learn to accept it, I think, and it is what it is. I just don't think Rook had to be the likeness of Ian Holm, but they have done that in the past, right? Obviously, the Bishop in Alien. Kind of, which was it? Alien
3,
3, and
3 is where
Aliens.
You see Bishop.
Aliens and Alien 3, and then obviously with Walter and David in the.
At least it wasn't Fassbender, right? I think
that would have been weird. That would have been weird.
That would have been weirder.
The other thing about bringing in, I can keep calling him Ash. I know it's Rook. Bringing Ian Holmes, I guess, is if you are familiar with the series. Like if this is your first Alien movie, then you might be.
You'll never know.
Yeah. But if you're familiar with it, there's an instant sense of malice in his character. Like, he's going to do what's right for the company, and he doesn't care about the human casualties involved. And it kind of just gets you there instantly. Now, I guess if you're familiar with the franchise, you just know that about the androids, period, or the synthetics, period. But
artificial persons, Dan, they prefer.
Sure, whatever. I knew there was the right term, and I was blanking on it. It just didn't hit me as negatively as I guess it did for you guys. It wasn't my favorite part of the movie, but it was like, oh, that's kind of cool, and I moved on with my life.
Maybe a part of it too is, like you guys were saying, they have a little bit of almost every movie in this, and I think they tried to mix too many things into this drink overall. So maybe that was just one of the
like the
stack
like
of
the
things
last third
for
of
me
the
that I was just
could have been left out of this recipe.
Whew, oh boy, we're going here now. Where else are we going?
No, let's get there.
I agree with you.
We got another great sequence that I'd love to bring up, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, positive one. This was just absolutely epic. I watched trailers and clips and behind the scenes of this. It's the face huggers in this movie. Lots and lots of face huggers in a variety of different ways, and there were some super intense moments. The director talks about giving the audience hope because it makes the situation more scary, because you're like on the edge of your seat, like if they could just get there. And when they're trapped in that room and that door's open just a little bit and they're trying to wake up Andy so that he can get them out, and the face huggers are swimming through the water under their feet, and the sound's building and the lights are going off and people are screaming and the intensity just keeps building. Fantastic sequence. The Andy wakes up and he's obviously a little different, but you don't notice quite that yet. And then the door shuts and some of the facehuggers get through. The glass breaks. They all get through. All of them skittering down the halls. They switch to special effects, but you don't even notice it here because you've been watching the practical effects from the first one up close. And this is running down a darkly lit hall, and it looks great. It looks fantastic. And all these things are skittering after them, and they're running and screaming, and the sound's building. And they make it into the next room and just barely close the doors in time. It was epic scene right there. Later, we have another facehugger scene where they're trying to go through the room, and it's the body temperature thing. And I wasn't sure if I really liked the idea, but it was certainly a very fun sequence to watch.
Kept
when
the
they went
tension.
through there. Yes, it was very, very tense. Lots of little plot holes in that one, but man, it was a good one. It was really fun to watch.
For my money, and I didn't pay anything to see this. For my money, the stars of this movie are Andy and the facehuggers.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Yep.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the facehugger scenes, pretty much every scene the facehuggers win, they were so much creepier than they've ever been. They literally, like, this is the first Alien movie to actually, I don't want to say scare me, but like have tension. Like where I actually was not quite sure who was going to make it, what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And like you're actually nervous. The facehuggers were so much more spider-like in this, and there were so many more of them. They really were effective in their role. The room that they had to heat up didn't really make a whole lot of sense because, like, okay, if you're heating up this one room, the second you open up that door, you're losing all the heat you just put up. So it's like
the hallway is now equal with temperature. He mentions that in a line of dialogue that the hallway.
He does the heat up the hallway.
Yes.
I thought they were only heating up the room.
No, they're heating up both rooms, and he says the hallway is now the equal temperature with the interior room we can travel in.
Gotcha.
So I noticed that on my second viewing too because I thought the same thing, but he does mention that in a little line.
Okay, fair enough. That helps with one of the little holes I had, but.
What's the guy getting on the freaking radio for?
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. The keys are in the glove box. Like, shut up, dude. Like, just move through
We'll be there in a minute. Shut up.
like, he doesn't know what's going on the end of that radio call, so he shouldn't be that eager to tell her about the keys. Yeah, she's panicking and stuff, but, like, he doesn't know what's really happening over there.
Yeah.
So it did that. Yeah, a little bit of plot hole, but man, it was cool watching.
Do you want to
jump at each other?
Now that we're talking about the facehuggers, and I love them so much, do you want to hear my initial write-up that I've deemed unworthy and maybe inappropriate?
Oh yes, always. If it's inappropriate, hit us.
Let's take the alien from the original and add all the aliens from the sequel. Then toss in the abomination from the resurrection, slather it with the black goo from Prometheus, and jam it down the audience's throat with multiple facehugger deep-throating scenes.
Oh, come on, Dan. Edit that one in front.
I mean, if you hadn't said anything, that would have been easier.
Sorry. That was amazing, though. I love that. When they pull that one off of Navarro and the thing's coming out of her throat. Oh man.
That thing was in there.
Yeah. Okay, and since we're talking about Navarro, I think when Navarro's chest bursts open and the music cuts out and the pregnant chick lets loose that scream into the silence. I haven't heard a good movie scream like that in a decade. That just amazed me. I've got goosebumps when I'm talking about it. Right now. I've got goosebumps. Such an amazing scream. The sound built up to that cuts out and she lets loose that amazing scream. And then the sound comes back in and they kick the throttle and the ship's crashing and things are blowing up and lights are flashing in sequences. It was an incredibly tense moment, and I loved that scene. I loved her scream for that. I'd like to see that actress who had a very small role in this movie. I'd like to see if she could do other stuff like this. I want to see what she could do.
Now, I've only seen it the one time, but that chestburster scene was. Excuse me. I've only seen it the one time, but that chestburster scene was quite different from other ones, right? Like the chest, like it kind of popped open
a little at the
and then
top.
It kind of like slowly crept out as opposed to like kabam, I'm here.
Yeah.
And it was like, somehow that made it worse. Like somehow that was just like, okay. Like it's almost like the Jurassic Park egg. Like they just like break through and then kind of like slowly work their way out as opposed to like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think they just wanted that splash of blood on the girl, and then they needed a pause moment. They didn't want that alien to be stealing the show because everything cut out and your focus was purely on that girl screaming, and it was really cool. But you're right, it wasn't the chest bursting scene I was expecting, but I'm not sure that I hate it.
I didn't hate it at all.
I think the different approach makes sense because we've seen how many chest bursting scenes now, right? So you have to do something different, and breaking it up with that nice chilling scream is really good to get you back into that moment.
Yep. Okay. So some really good moments, and I'm not sure if this is a bad moment, but we do have a sequence in the gestation of the alien that is completely new to the entire franchise. What did you think about baby alien cocooning and then popping out as a full-grown alien?
Right. The one that gets he tries to abort with the
tries to give him the cattle prod.
Yeah, it's the first time, because in previous installments they've seen like skin as if like shedding like a snake. We've never seen a gestation egg for growth, right? This is the first time. So I don't know how I felt about it. I was like, it's different. It's fine. It was a fun scene, except for he was so stupid that he didn't get out of the way of all this acid dripping down on him.
He just laid there as more and more dripped onto him. I'm like,
but you don't really like him, so you don't care that much. Yeah. Stop, drop, and roll. I guess they don't teach you that on freaking colonies. I don't know.
I don't know if it entirely works for acid, but at least get out of the way of more acid.
At least gets you out of the way, so I don't know. I didn't mind it. It looked cool. And like the tail coming out to like slash at him, it looked cool. Does it fit within the franchise? I guess it does now.
All I could think of, like I thought of Brian every time there was like quiet in the outside of space, and then we get to this scene, and I could not help but think of Will and the comments he's going to be making, because like I don't know, I'm the first one to bring it up, I guess, but like, did that not look like a vagina giving birth?
That's why I said he tried to abort it.
I know. Okay.
Yeah.
That was one of those like, oh, Will's going to have a comment on this one. The internet's not going to like it.
That was
I'm glad I'm teaching you the ways, though.
Yeah. And he cattle prods the thing inside there until it melts his little laser gun. And later in the movie, we have an alien who has blue electricity trickling inside its skull, and I was like, fucking Highlander, we just can't get away from this blue electricity.
I completely missed that. I'll have to check that out on my next viewing.
Just a little quick one, but yep, we had blue electricity in it.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
As far as the actual scene goes, I didn't mind it if it hadn't been the 7th movie that introduced it. Like the idea that they go somewhere to grow, I actually really, really liked, as opposed to we just saw in Covenant, it goes from like this big to like 10 feet tall in 8 minutes. And it's like, I liked this better. I liked the gestation period. Somebody mentioned they're kind of like the Gremlins, right? Like they kind of have to go into that pod and then they come out fully formed. It's like, I kind of like that. I kind of like that they need a human host, they need a biological host to grow to their first stage, and then they need to like hit that next level. I was like, I'm cool with it. I don't know why this is the 7th movie and we're seeing it for the first time, but other than that, I didn't know.
I've never seen anything in comic books. That was all new to me. I was trying to find some stuff on it where that's happened elsewhere. From what I understand, they wanted to add this and make it canon. This was a new thing, and they wanted to just put it in there.
That said, it was a real quick turnaround in this movie too, from like sticking it in the body to popping it out of the body to getting full grown. Like that was quick turnaround. And I didn't really understand why, because there was like a dozen other aliens already on the ship. Like you didn't have to do that. Yeah. And it just adds to the inconsistencies of timelines on that.
They immediately made them sit in the hall and wait for the heater to warm up. Why couldn't we have had the heater warm up scene happen and then the alien gestate out of her chest? You could give a little bit more time for that to happen. Because it was like, they pulled that thing out of her throat, she walks down the hall, and it pops out her chest. We've never seen one that fast. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was crazy.
We're not really sure about the time frame on Covenant, but I felt like that was relatively quickly, too, when it pops out of the captain.
Yeah.
Like the time frame from when the captain gets face hugged to that thing is a full grown alien feels like half an hour tops. Like
it just Covenant's timelines were all over the place too from a lot of things I felt.
The alien movies in general are pretty all over the place. There's not a ton of consistency.
Which is funny though, because Alien was pretty like, oh, he had the facehugger on him. Like they documented it, right? Like they set a pretty good timeline for it. So it was weird that it's varied so much over time.
And the facehugger falls off. He gets up, walks around like a totally normal person. And it's not until it's breaking out of his chest that he's even like, I think something's wrong. Whereas like the dog in 3 is getting sick for a while before something happens. Most of the other people, like the facehugger's still on their face almost and the thing's popping out of their chest.
Yeah.
Like it's getting faster and faster despite, well, anyways, whatever.
It's a pacing thing, obviously, for movies, but it does rub you the wrong way when you're trying to, as inquisitive minds do, try to sorting out rules,
and I like it when they're consistent. And if you have to do it for dramatic effect, I get it. But if it's all over the place, it does kind of take you out. You're just like, all right, what's going on in this one? Nope, it's gone. Cool.
All right, may I ask?
No.
Did any of you like any of the characters in this movie?
Andy.
I liked it's not Daniels, is it? Is it Daniels and Andy?
No, Rain.
Daniels was Covenant.
Rain and Andy.
I like Rain and Andy well enough.
Rain wasn't terrible. Right. I didn't mind her. I would say I liked Rain better than I liked Daniels.
I agree. And part of that is because you establish them at the beginning. And that's really the only two you establish, which kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I think they could have given us more time to really find some character in the other people.
Yeah, they could have expanded a bit more. What was it? The cousin who his parents had been wronged by a synthetic.
Yeah.
I was like this guy's super dick. I hate his guts. I want him to die. And then you know why. And I'm like, okay, but I still don't know this character.
Yeah.
Like you haven't given me enough time. Like I like what you're doing. This, oh, I hate him, but here's a reason why he is this way. Okay, that's cool. Let's elaborate on it a little bit more though. At least a bit. The pregnant chick, don't know anything about her at all. She never gets hardly any lines, nothing.
Yeah. It would have been okay if you liked him and he was nice to everybody else, but a dick to Andy. And because you like Andy, that kind of makes you conflicted about the character. But he's just kind of a dick all around.
Yeah, he's a dick all around.
Like, I'm very okay with this guy dying as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And thankfully he does.
I just felt overall in the last handful of Alien movies, they've really neglected the characters. And this movie at least went back to kind of the basics of small crew so that, you know who they are. Like in Alien, that's why we liked Alien. It was a small crew of relatable people. You got to know them a little bit throughout the movie. You understood how, their personalities, clashed with each other or who was, friends with each other. You got that all in Alien. Sure, it was a little slower pace getting started, but I think the payoff is you care about these characters more when they get destroyed by aliens in multiple gruesome ways. And then the last few installments, this one included, at least they went kind of smaller, which is nice because it gives you the opportunity to learn about the characters, but they just didn't do that. Instead, they were more interested in giving them one-off lines from other movies. And I really felt it took away from like me wanting be invested in this movie in general.
Yeah, I agree. The only characters I did get invested with were Andy and Rain was just like, yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah. She's had a tough life and she's trying to move on and everything, but I didn't really go anywhere. Andy was the character who I was so amazed at his acting as an android that's defective to this robust,
yes, that was a great transformation.
He's emotionless in both cases, but for some reason you sense the lack of empathy in the second version, the Wayland version.
Yeah.
And it almost you start transposing emotions on him that don't exist. Such a complex character, such a complex role to play. Absolutely nailed it. Could not have done better. It was such a stellar performance. I
could have not said "you bitch."
That's true, but that's not his fault. That's not his fault. They wrote that in there and it sucked. And it was a terrible line. The absence of that word would have made that delivery so amazing to me. I wish they would have done that. I can't wait to see the sequel because there is supposed to be a sequel to Romulus, and I'm hoping he's in it. And I want to see more of him.
I mean, no, historically, it's going to be Rain. He's going to die off camera, and she's going to have a new companion for the rest of the movie. Like, every Alien movie is just like, let's have this one character and murder everybody else where we can't even see him.
Like, and there will be some alien hitchhiker on her ship because they can't think of a better way to...
In Prometheus and Covenant, it's kind of goes the opposite. You get the alien, the synthetic
Android,
surviving, and the girl dies off camera. So maybe we get Andy and Rain goes away.
It's kind of interesting to me, the push to make the synthetics, the androids, the most likable characters in the last 3 installments at least. Even in like Alien Resurrection, Bishop was more of a personable android, and you felt like you could trust them almost, but you can still question it a little bit in that one because everything we know about androids up until that point was their bad news. Or maybe I'm talking about the second one. I
was going to say, like, Bishop's not in
Resurrection. Yeah, sorry. Second one. I've watched too many Alien movies. But it's just like so interesting that the franchise has really pushed the AI being more human than humans in the writing. And I don't know if that's purposeful. I feel like it's not. I feel like it's a mistake because it doesn't play well. You can't invest in these characters that you don't care about. But the AI, you do. Like Andy, like you said, he's played really well at the start. He's defective, but you like care for him because he's there for his sister. He's programmed to be there. He's programmed to have these jokes, all these dad jokes, but it's like you feel that connection. You feel like they're family. And then the switch flip when he gets the update, you're like, oh yeah, he is an android and he doesn't have those emotions. That's us putting it on him. And that's a really cool flip. And then it makes you question, should she go back for him? Is it worth it? And all you do is care about whether you care about this robot or not. Yeah. And that's like really interesting. But I feel like it still falls flat against, do we actually care about Rain that much? Do we care about her ex-boyfriend? Do we care about Kay, who I think got knocked up by her cousin? I just don't know because it's so poorly written that I just don't care. So it's like a really mind-boggling concept, or like when they're writing this, why? It's why?
It suffers from a lot of the same problems that Covenant suffered from, where you have these really cool sequences that don't quite make sense. And if you take them individually, you have a lot of fun. But if you want to learn more about these characters as a whole, or have these sequences flow together in a logical, direction, they don't really do that. And then on top of that, we have a couple of issues, which I would like to now speak about, which is the physics issue of the alien bath in 0G.
1 second before you get there, because I do want to touch on something Will mentioned about the synthetic. Moment when he does transfer over to the new version, and she's like, Andy, what's your prime
What's
directive?
Your new prime directive?
And he's just like, or no, she's like, are you supposed to protect me or something? And you're not allowed me to hurt. He's like, that's not my prime directive anymore. Whatever that moment was so good. Cause like in that second like you see Andy turn on to like that new version, the upgraded version. He is a completely different actor, although obviously not. But again, just that like, oh shit, like we are not as safe as we were like a second ago. Like we thought this was a good idea, and instead this is completely flipped on us. I thought that was such a good scene. I wish I could remember the exact quote, but it was so good.
She asks, I'll have it in the YouTube version. What is your prime directive now, or what is your new prime directive? And he says, what is best for the company?
That's it.
And it was very chilling. It was very chilling to know suddenly you are not important to him. He doesn't need to kill you. He's not out to get you.
I don't need to kill you, but I don't need to save you either.
But he does not need to save them. So yes, it was very cool.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, I'll let you go on to your acid bath now.
Yeah. So we deal with Andy, and he's taking him through. And now I believe this is after she gets the chip out of Andy, and they're back to taking care of each other again. I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And she has the gun, which has aim assist, which would make her, as a noob with this pulse rifle, be able to hit very accurately.
I hate that.
I have so many questions about that.
It's very cheesy. It's very dumb, but it does explain why she's able to shoot the alien without blowing a hole in the side of the ship.
I'll give you that, but this is 30 years before Aliens 2. Why did the technology get worse? Why don't those? He even says these are the guns the Space Marines use, and he's very familiar with them. Why do the Space Marines not
have a hell of a time killing those aliens?
Right? And why did they? Okay, so the smart guns actually have that technology in them. The mounted gun that Vasquez have, they use that auto aim technology. That's what the smart gun is all about.
Why don't everybody?
So I don't know. I don't know why doesn't everybody? Yeah, exactly. I guess because they're trained or something. Whatever.
Are they? We've seen that movie,
right? Well, they did that the Star Trooper training.
The Starship Trooper training.
Yeah,
they're squishing bugs. It's for democracy.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. So
alien blood.
Okay, so they go in this tunnel. And the moment they get onto the ship, I'm rewinding here. The moment they get onto the ship and they see the mouse floating in air and then it slams down and they say, "What's that?" "Oh, that's the gravity. It's got to purge itself every so often." The moment they said that, I went, "Oh shit, they're not going to do this, are they?" Because I know the real reason the alien has acid for blood is so that you can't just shoot it on a spaceship. It'll burn through the hole and kill you all.
Right.
And so I'm thinking, are they going to do this?
Why are they crawling if there's no gravity in that scene?
Well,
they were really struggling through that tiny little fit.
I kind of asked myself, they seem like if the gravity's off, just give yourself a push and float. Whee! I guess it's a tight fit, whatever.
Okay, sure.
So
moving on.
The gravity's going on and off and everything, and they turn the gravity back on with a touch of a button. And it was like, oh, I think they're gonna do it. And then when Andy hands her the gun and says it's just to scare the alien away, it might work, I went, yep, they're going to do it. And sure enough, they did it. They shoot the aliens, which explode in 0G, and the explosion stops and slowly rotates for no reason at all. The ship isn't rotating. The ship doesn't use centrifuge gravity. It has a gravity generator that purges itself. Gravity goes up and down, not spinning slowly. The explosion just stops. I guess, well, it did it with the Nostromo, right? The Nostromo blew up and just stopped, leaving a freaking alien space peanut in the middle. So let's do it with the acid, too. And then they go flying through this, and she's like, oh, I got to take a left turn. Let's just shoot the gun, and I'll push myself out of the way. Like shotguns in bad freaking cop movies that blow people back on their ass. Anybody who's ever fired a weapon knows that doesn't work. I'm really mad about all the physics in this movie, other than they sort of muted the space flight stuff outside. That was it. I give props for that. But it really bothered me.
Okay, now I'm gonna push back on you a little bit on that one, and I could be 100% wrong. Wouldn't a gun in space work like that? Like, wouldn't you would
have to fire a lot of rounds to get you to push? Like, she fired once and just went whoosh straight down. It doesn't work like that. Like, anybody who's fired a shotgun knows you get a little bit of a kick, but it's not this. It doesn't blow you back on your ass. And she's using it and like propelling herself across, and she's not supposed to be shooting the ship anyway. Like, you're worried you're going to blow a hole in the ship with your 226 caseless explosive rounds that they talk about and everything.
I think at that point I'm more worried about melting to acid than blowing a hole in the ship. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
You know what? I get that it was a cool thing to have them float by this acid, but I didn't like that the aliens were exploding when she shot them in the head, and the acid just stayed right there in this cloud. And then for some reason, they gave it a little spin. I don't even know what the spin was, but it all starts to rotate around the center of this room. Mm-hmm. And then in the end, they turn on the gravity anyway and blow a hole in the ship, and then the elevator just seals it. I was like, what was that all that for? What?
For a fun sequence. It was super cool to look at, man.
Yeah.
And also,
that's not even the part I hate the most about this movie.
We'll get there, I'm sure.
We can guess. I also was like, why does there have to be so many aliens coming in at that point? Like, do 1 or 2 aliens so you have to avoid the blood. They offed like a dozen aliens, and this gun never ran out of bullets, even though they talked about it gonna run out of bullets anytime now.
40%, 20%.
It just kept going down, but they kept firing, and then Andy just kept firing it too. Like, who cares?
Did it seem like she was firing like large bursts of gunfire, but one bullet would hit an alien in the head?
Yeah, because she doesn't have great
pop one in the head, but she's going like at a time.
Yeah. Well, maybe they peppered the body and then they just show the headshot, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. The whole thing was pretty wonky. The auto assist aim thing was brutal. I didn't like it because it totally trashes on aliens like later in the franchise.
I liked it because it made a useless person able to kill an alien. But I didn't like it because we see Marines later that don't have that technology, and like just leave that line out of like, oh, it's a prototype. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's on this ship because we're developing things on like if they've got the alien blood, it would make sense that this ship is a weapons research facility. This is a prototype. This new kid is like, I'm familiar with weapons and they don't have this. That answers the question right there. And instead he's like, this is what Marines use. Like, no, they're not. We've seen Marines use the guns, and this is not it.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, it works in the fact, again, if it's like a reboot and the 20-something-year-olds are going to watch this crazy alien movie that they've never seen before. It doesn't work for us old-timers who have seen all these movies and know that this just doesn't add up in the series of events that these movies take place in, right? Yeah. So it's a hit and miss, and I feel like that's a lot of this movie is like, if this is the first alien movie you're seeing, it's great. There's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of fun. And you don't see a lot of plot holes that are there because of the other movies. There's still honestly major problems, but not as many if you haven't seen the other movies.
Honestly, I've seen 7 alien movies. I still thought this was pretty great. It's got holes, for sure.
It's definitely got holes.
But this is a ton of fun. And this one brings the series back to not back even. For the first time, it gets the aliens scary for me. Like none of the other movies am I actually all that scared of the aliens. This is the first one where I'm like, holy shit! Like face huggers are terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Face huggers are scary.
Yeah,
I don't know if any of the aliens were.
Yeah, none of the aliens were all that scary. They were kind of out in the open, crawling. They weren't lurking up on people. They could see them coming from a mile away.
If you're an apex predator, you don't really need to be in the shadows.
Yeah, but that's
those apex predators lost to a 20-year-old who has no gun experience, so they aren't that apex, are they?
Well, I mean, humans with guns are pretty much apex, so I mean, we beat them in that category. But generally speaking, these are like the perfect.
Have you seen aliens?
Yeah. Okay, chat's kind of losing its mind a little bit about the guns in space. So yes, firing an automatic weapon under sustained fire would push you in the opposite direction that you're firing. But if you're putting it on your right shoulder, you would spin in a circle for one. She would have to put it directly at her center of mass. She would have to do sustained fire because you're shooting a bullet with this amount of mass that's pushing against your entire body. So yeah, it'll put
we also don't know
sustained fire in one direction. You
actually don't know the size of the bullet or the amount of force.
I don't know the size of the bullet, but she had 10% or less in the gun, so it was one more burst because they kept counting it down. It was like a burst of fire was about 10%, and that's what she shot. And when I was watching it hit the aliens, it was one bullet hitting the alien in a whole burst. So I don't even know if it's one bullet that just sounds like a burst. I don't know, but it just didn't add up to me because she fires it and just immediately just flies backwards, straight back, even though she has the gun on her shoulder. Like it didn't line up. And I don't like when they use those kind of physics from guns and stuff. So yeah, that's why I didn't like that. Sorry.
And cut from the scene.
There you go. Yeah, you can edit that out of the other one.
No, that's fine. Let's move from that disastrous scene to another.
Yes. Dan, do you have anything good to go back to? Because we've been hitting hard on the negative. Do you have anything good?
I'm ready to go hard negative.
That's why I want Dan to kind of give us something to lean into here.
I'm a little shocked that Runs is negative. This one, like Will being negative on sci-fi, kind of makes sense at this point. But
wow,
let's be honest.
I'm no horror movie hater like you, Dan.
Well, I mean, give me an actual horror movie. We'll see what we do. Don't.
Okay. Wow.
I feel like this movie is. Do I have a specific scene that I really liked? I don't know. Overall, up until you get to the last, like the birth, let's say, up until you get to the birth, most of this movie was fun. Dumb fun, but fun. And it really did work for me as kind of a creep fest, which most of the Aliens movies have not been up to this point. It did, how do I want to word that? It gives us, it kind of, it shows us what the black goo, like they extract the black goo from the original Alien, and that's how they kind of get to where we are here, which kind of makes sense out of what we saw in Covenant for how we get to this place.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure that that's the solution I like, but at least it does kind of continue on with what we've seen previously. I kind of feel like this is the, like, as you said, like if sorry, there's something weird going on in the other room. If this is your first Alien movie, I think you have a lot of fun with this movie. And then you kind of watch everything else, you go, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Like, maybe Alien 2 holds up pretty well. Aliens, sorry, holds up pretty well. But, like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like 90% of this movie is just good, clean fun. And then you get that last scene and you're just like, where the fuck did this come from?
Well, I can explain the last scene, even though I hate it, and we'll get there. But I do think that this movie pulls from everything that's come from before it and tries to do the best that it can, minus these plot holes. I think we could have had some better writing on some of these plot holes that we talked about. But like they took the goo, which I didn't want, but if we're gonna swallow this pill,
that's the direction it's going.
I like that they were like, okay, they're trying to they genetically pulled this out of the alien. So humans now took the goo out of the alien instead of getting it from the engineers, which then humans put it into a person, and we ended up getting a baby that came out looking like an engineer. Somewhat like an engineer.
Yeah.
Right?
But you're right. It did resemble
as well.
It had a resemblance to the engineer. And I think that's what they were trying to do, is trying to like complete this and say that, you know, the goo was derived from engineers. Humans stole the goo, adapted it, and humans were made from the goo from engineers, and we reversed it. And it's all kind of like a big cycle. So there's humans, there's engineers, and there's aliens, and it's all going to kind of get turned around in this thing in whatever way you kind of bake it. Whatever. I thought it was stupid. I wish we could just do away with the goo altogether, but we kind of have to go there.
I don't disagree, but we're here now, and this is what they're going with, so be it. I really liked Alien better. Like after 1 and 2, when it's like this is a race and a colony, like okay, that I'm all in. And then it kind of just kept going, and it got weirder and weirder. And I don't know why they feel the need to have a more highly evolved version at the end of all these movies now. Like that, it's never worked. Like there's not a single one where I'm like, wow, that's cool, and they're trying to recreate it. It's always bad. It's always the worst part of the movie. Yeah. And yet they just keep trying, and it's like, why? The aliens are scary enough, and they're already supposed to be like the perfect organism. Mm-hmm. Why are they evolving further? Why are we trying this route? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I wonder a little bit. I mean, this movie in general doesn't bring up a lot of big questions like Prometheus or even Covenant, but it does, you know, delve slightly into the goo at the end there. And I felt like this almost fits in with my theory of how it all works and goes together. It kind of made me think of Covenant again when David goes to the home planet, in theory, and destroys all of the engineers, but the engineers don't look like the engineers we've seen. And that's because those were like maybe the engineers that weren't biologically advanced from the goo. Perhaps they experimented on themselves to get these bigger, bulkier, whiter engineers that we kind of see coming out of this human at the end of Romulus. So to me, I still am of the thought that alien xenomorph in some way or another still existed prior to engineers creating it, prior to David creating it, and that they all had a hand in mixing, finding the goo from the essence of the aliens, taking it from them and experimenting on it to create humans, to create the engineer elites, and all of the things in between. And that's how I feel like it all kind of makes sense. And David even experiments to get his perfect xenomorph, right? Which I believe maybe there was a perfect xenomorph out there before, but nobody had seen it prior to David doing it in the chronological order of the films. But it's still still sounds valid and covers all of like the major holes of like, why is that ancient ship there with the alien eggs? Because that was maybe earlier engineers just discovering and harnessing these eggs, and then they'll get to work on them to create their, crazy jacked engineers later down the line.
You're saying the xenomorphs came first and the engineers used them to create humans and their technology based around the goo, and that xenomorphs are humanity's god.
Xenomorphs, I mean, I wouldn't say God, but creator, yeah, right. Well, I mean, you'd have to believe in God.
I just want to get back to Space Jesus again, because that was great.
Space Jesus still is in there, but in that way, you worship your creator. I guess if that means God, great. But in this world or this franchise, it's more of a creationist story, not a God.
Right. Right. Where did things come from? Not necessarily religious factions, but yeah.
But yes, everything is a subspecies of alien, and now we're rebreeding. Humans, just like we'll do it with anything. We'll mix our DNA with anything to try to make ourselves better or get ahead, or just because we want a good time.
Well, the alien that was born out of the pregnant woman looked more alien to start, and kind of going along with your theory, was healing its alienness into more of an engineer by the end. Like, it had those big, like, I don't know what you call them, the things sticking out of the aliens' backs, right? Like,
the weird little tube
things. They were short,
and they were like shrinking, and they were starting to heal over and almost turned into like shoulder blades,
popping himself into place and stuff. Yeah.
So we never got to see him like his final evolution form. But my guess is, he was turning into an engineer, essentially. Like, he was healing beyond the aliens into what the engineers become.
And
I don't know what that has to do with the whole theory long term, but it was kind of like, oh, that's actually kind of an interesting take on it.
Why is it when anybody injects themselves with the goo, their body changes, but their mind never does? She was still the same person mentally. She was screaming and freaking out like any sane person would. But she wasn't changed mentally. Neither was anybody in Covenant when they got infected or anything. Their body mutates and gives birth to an alien of some sort, but their minds never changed. And I always think, wouldn't it change all of you? And in this one, she stabs herself in the neck, and the only thing that changes is the fetus inside her. She didn't change at all, other than she was her breasts were lactating black goo, which was disgusting and totally unnecessary. It was just grossing me out. The thing trying to breastfeed off of her was disgusting and unnecessary. Like, it was really gross. That's where I feel like they were pulling from Alien Resurrection by just grossing me the F out. It was unnecessarily disgusting.
Well, this is the director who did Evil Dead, right? Like, that might just be his bag.
I appreciated the gory, scary stuff that he did in this movie, but that sequence was not
a whole new level.
Yeah, it was just a whole new. At least it wasn't hairy or full of.
So the alien,
I was like, Dad, there's not enough hair. Not enough hair in this movie.
The aliens, like, I still like to think of the aliens as more of a parasite than a goo that transforms your body entirely. And in that sense, it would make the parasite would just live inside you and break out, as opposed to corrupting your mind.
I just wanted
a little scarier that way. To be honest, I think it's scarier.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right up until the end.
I want it to be just an alien that latches onto things, and it will give birth to something that takes on its features, like we saw the dog alien, ox alien, like we've seen in spin-offs that aren't canon to this, but we have a pred alien that comes out because it latches onto a predator's face. That was actually really cool when that pred alien pops out in that movie. So those are more interesting to me. And I've, in novels and stuff, they've had flying aliens because they latched onto the face of a bird and they just get those attributes. That's more interesting to me. And having the life cycle of the aliens slowly change as they interact with other species, rather than this goo that radically changes everything, and androids can mess with it and change it up and stuff. It's just too messy. It's too messy.
I'm really disappointed going backwards, because I remember when we watched Alien 3, that was the one thing that I really liked in the movie, was like, oh, when they interact with a different species, they become a different species. And it's really disappointing that now that we're at currently the end of the franchise, we never really saw that again. Like they're always evolving into something totally different, but they're not like taking on the properties of what they're seeing. They're just kind of like, oh look, now it's a big white dude. Like, okay, like sure.
And that was the goo transformation, not the clean transformation that I like either.
Or the cloning, or
cloning,
a whole bunch of
the cloning, all those weird ones, all the
all
weird ways you get
face huggers on different animals.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I did have a thought though too that Rook and that research vessel was trying to get this goo so that they could make humans more durable and more space travel worthy and living on these other planets in these colonizations. I thought that was a really cool idea. And seeing the colony at the beginning of the movie was cool because it's like never sun there. There's no sun. It's dark and gloomy. Everybody hates their lives. That was really interesting. And then I thought, wow, that Rook is trying to do what they actually achieved in Resurrection. By cloning Ripley, they got the perfect human specimen in Ripley 2.0, and she has acid for blood and a killer instinct and can basketball hoop for days. And I was like, they did it. They established, like a few years later, they did it. They achieved. And so I was pretty pumped about that it all kind of connects.
I was wondering how you did that with a straight face. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But
it was like 400 years later, but still.
I'm not wrong. They did it.
Do you think human life can actually live on a planet that doesn't get sunlight? Like I thought there wasn't a sun at first, and I was like, okay, what on earth? How do you get
half
heat?
our audience right now hasn't seen sun in a week, man. These people never touch grass. Yes, absolutely.
The planet still gets sun, though.
Without sun. No
Where's
problem.
the oxygen coming from?
Fucking people are like, pass me the Cheetos. Let's do this. Yeah, we could do without the sun. It's not an issue.
If you don't have sun, you don't have plants. You don't have photosynthesis. You don't have oxygen.
It's got sun. It's just got cloud cover that keeps it from ever happening.
Would still kill the plants.
They're a hardy. They're a hardy.
You're gonna kill the plants anyways. Who cares?
I'm also wondering, like, was this planet ever going to be inhabitable, or were they just mining it for resources? And that's why, like, people were just like being forced to stay there. Like, this is like this horrible company again, just screwing the everyday person who desperately needs a job and will take on this. And then they're stuck there, and then their family's stuck there until these bright-eyed, bushy-tailed youngsters take off on one of their haulers to make their own way and find heaven. I don't know. That's what I got out of it.
Do you think the planet Jaeger, or whatever it is, do you think that even exists, or do you think that's literally just hope because humans need hope, or else they'll just kill themselves? Is it just a hey, if you do enough service, you can go to Jaeger and it's a beautiful planet, blah, blah, blah? Or is it just a complete lie by the company?
That seems like a big lie to keep up. I never thought about that idea. The company just makes up an apple on a string for these people to keep churning for.
Well, I mean, you see them just like, oh no, plans have changed. Like, you hit your goal, cool. Here's a new goal. Go fuck yourself.
Didn't even break stride. She's like, nope, your things are refunded, and we got to do this. You're reset. Well, you got to go again.
Yeah, and it's not even like, oh, the plans have changed and this has happened. It's like, oh, you hit your quota, that can't happen, and they like change it on the spot. It's not like, oh, they changed at some point while you weren't paying attention. No, I'm doing it literally as you're like, you hit your goal, cool, new goal.
Yeah, she was the WI officer there, maybe second best written character in the movie. So I really appreciated her.
You're such a dick sometimes.
What? You understood her motives? She was clear, concise. She had minimal screen time, and you knew exactly what was going on.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, it was a well planned out character. You even saw like the trinkets on her desk, and you knew she was like half Karen. Like, it was, she was there. How'd you guys like the way that Rain ends up killing the space baby?
Like every alien movie ever?
Yeah, blown into space, except instead of the alien being on the grapple hook, she was on the grapple hook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gotta have a twist, I guess.
The grappling hook is around the lever, the last lever she needs to lock. She gets flown into outer space. That doesn't hit the lever off.
Right.
She starts climbing up the thing. That doesn't hit the lever off. But she goes, and that turns the lever off. I'm just like,
yeah.
No.
Okay, one thing I didn't notice, and maybe this has some effect on it, is that when she is hanging off of the rope outside of the ship, she's actually outside of the artificial gravity well. And so it's just the suction of the air running and blowing all the dust out that's actually pulling her down. There's no actual weight from her, is what it's supposed to be.
She does climb in quite easily.
She does climb in real easily. And if you see her, she gives herself a pull, and the rope actually kind of goes slack as she floats up into the ship. I didn't notice that the first or second time around, but there is something to that. But you're right. She gets flung out that door at full speed with all the air and sand.
Yep.
And it doesn't trip the lever, and then she gives it a tug. And then it's,
That's all I needed.
No good.
Okay, I will say, though, that scene, when she's hanging out in space, and you can see the spaceship like exploding in the background, like as it's slowly crashing into, that was damn cool.
Yeah.
Like it was just a visual, but that 1000% worked for me.
I have no idea if the rings would actually look like that up close. I imagine actual rings around like Saturn or something to be vast amounts of space in between the pieces, much like we portray asteroid belts as being clusters of rocks when there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of miles between each piece of rock in the asteroid belt. I don't know, but it looked so damn cool as it slowly fed into this conveyor belt of ice and death. It was cool looking. So I don't care.
Yeah.
If you can find an alien needle in an ocean, you could probably find a planet with a thick belt, you know?
Sure, there you go. That's right. We're playing the odds on this movie, sure.
Exactly. It's not the worst thing. It's not the worst thing I saw.
So, I mean, for me, there was tons of plot holes in this movie. Acting was on a big scale. There were people who, well, you know what? I wouldn't say there was any bad acting per se, but there was a lot of not so great, and there was some bad character writing in this. A lot of bad writing in general, but there were some gems. There were gems scattered throughout of this. I always say the first 2/3 of this movie, I'm very happy with. I enjoy a lot. Even with the plot holes, it was super, super fun. Once the acid bath thing starts happening, I'm kind of just, it's too much. It's too much breaking laws of physics for me. It takes me really out of it. She's floating up and down the elevator. That doesn't really make sense when the gravity gets turned on and she's kind of being tossed up still and slowly makes this rotation around. And then and then
the alien just cradles her with her tail.
Cradles her and doesn't kill her. Like every other alien would have just like slashed him in half. Whoosh.
Or just let her fall. Okay, don't even need to kill you. Like they're not killing to eat.
It just keeps getting worse and worse. And then you end with the thing that bothered me the most about Resurrection, aside from its entire look, was this alien humanoid baby, which nobody really liked. Why do we have to bring that back just to tie it in with the engineers? We have the goo. You've gone far enough. We don't need to do the engineers. If anything, have like an engineer fly in on a spaceship or something. I don't care. Just don't do it. It just got worse. But the first 2/3 of the movie were so much fun for me, and I enjoyed it a lot. And there were some amazing sequences even still after that. But yeah, lots of plot holes, man.
Honest to God, if she'd given birth and like you went through the exact same sequence and it had just been a regular ass alien, it wouldn't have been as big, but it just like a regular xenomorph, I probably would have been better with that even.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but then you don't tie it into the engineers, and they really wanted that.
That's all it was. They wanted to tie it into the engineers and go full circle. That's all it was. Whether it makes sense or not, that's all they wanted to do.
Circle of life.
There we go. Yeah.
We're all alien babies.
Yeah.
Praise space Jesus. You can call me maybe. All right.
Dan might have 2 seats open soon.
Should we?
Next week on our rating, just Dan, full screen.
Dan.
Oh, man.
Should we rate this movie?
Please, yes, let's.
All right. I'm shocked. Oh, my God. All right. I'm already the most positive person on this franchise so far, and I feel like that's not changing after tonight. So, what the hell? I'll go first, I guess. Actually, you know what? You're both going to be negative. Let one of you go first, and I'll be positive, and then the next person goes negative.
I'll go first.
My sandwich fluctuated. I got to do some math. So
oh, damn. Okay, I'll go first. It'll be rough, but we'll go. Romulus is an alien movie that I watched with my 2 eyes. And I'm going to be honest, I fell asleep in the first half hour, and I had to rewatch it. And so let's start there, shall we? I feel like Alvarez, the director writer, has done a handful of projects with mixed success, but I feel like, much like the Evil Dead reboot, remake, sequel, I don't know what you even call it, he does a great job of mimicking. He can really mimic. He does his homework. He watches the movies. He captures. He knows how to capture the mood, the feeling, the locations, the costuming, the practical effects he seems to really love, which played well in Evil Dead, plays really well in this movie. He has a really good eye for mimicking what others have done. But when it comes to actually writing original content, I feel like he really falls short. And we see that in poor character development. And beyond some fun scares, we see it in finishing the movie on a solid note of like, oh yeah, I just came out of this movie and I'm pumped. I can't wait to talk and rave about this movie. I just felt that he just tried to mix in everything. And the cocktail turned out real sour at the end. There was some great moments, but it just didn't come together for me. And I just couldn't feel like fully invested. That said, some great acting. Andy did a fantastic job. I think the most of the cast did fine work with what words they were given to work with. What else can I say? There's just a lot of weird stuff. Run will probably talk more about the weird physics and the odd sequences of events. The facehuggers were a highlight. I loved facehuggers. I love facehuggers throughout this series. They keep me on the edge because I don't want that in my mouth. And Alvarez really, really went for it, and I appreciated that. That was gross. So overall, the genre, it's got some scares, but I feel like this was kind of more of a heist movie, which is kind of fun too, because again, it's a little bit of a different genre, and every Alien movie kind of touches on a different genre a little bit. So I appreciated that. The acting, fine. The writing, I've mentioned. The direction, again, I feel like Alvarez has potential, but he's more of a mimic right now than his own solid direction. Like, he doesn't have his own feel for things. He just takes and replicates what he's seen. So will this movie hold up? Yeah, I think so. If you've never seen an Alien movie, I think this is a great entry-level movie. Is it a bad movie? No, there's definitely lots of fun scenes. Brian will talk about the bad ones. Dan will talk about the good ones. And I'll just give you my score. It's a 70 out of 100.
All right. That's not as bad as I was anticipating. Better than some of your I can see all the scores you've given to the other movies, and that's what, third highest, fourth highest?
Yeah, it's probably pretty close to Alien 3.
I was gonna say you gave Alien 3 a better score than this, and that hurts my soul. Okay.
There was less world building in Alien 3 that needed explanation. And I felt like because this was like a cocktail of just pulling everything in, it just couldn't possibly explain it all away. You know what I mean? So that dampened it a lot for me.
I almost wish they just hadn't tried for a lot of it. Just leave it alone and just be like, no, it's just aliens on a ship. That's all we need. That's all we want. That's all we're here for. Good enough.
Yeah, and at its core, it's that. But unfortunately, they touch on all that other stuff.
It worked with the Predator when they went back to Predator Prey. They just told a nice story about the Predator, and it was fantastic. It was a hit. It was a great movie. Why couldn't we do that?
Anyway,
I feel like they tried off somebody else. But anyways.
All right. Tried. Oh yeah.
Oh, you going, Dan?
I was going to go, and then you can end us off on a sour note. So we get negative, positive, negative, potentially. I don't know. Maybe you'll be more positive than I think you're going to be. I enjoyed this movie. Like, when I think of an Alien movie, I always go back to the very first one, where it's just like, you feel a little claustrophobic, there's an alien, he's chasing you on the ship, and that's what most of this movie felt like. Now, there was a lot more aliens we found out later on, but for the good chunk of the movie, because I even remember thinking, like, if there was this many people on this ship, why is there only one alien? And then we do see that there are more later on. But for a chunk of this movie, you've got a bunch of facehuggers, which are terrifying. You've got the one alien, which is pretty scary. You've got Andy, their one friend, being corrupted, and you're not really sure where he lands as far as they go. Like, he's kind of working with them enough to save himself, but not really their friend anymore. And the turn when he goes is pretty scary. This is the first Alien movie I've seen out of all of them that was actually tense and kind of gave me what I wanted going into this franchise. I hadn't seen most of these movies when I started this franchise. So the ones that I had seen are like, oh, it's one alien on a ship hunting people down and it's scary. And it took me 7 movies to get to this point. But once we got here, I actually enjoyed this quite a bit. Is it perfect? No, it's absolutely not a perfect film. I'm not going to give it that high of a score. It's not. It kind of does the same thing Prey did, where they kind of took you back to their roots, but I don't think it did it nearly as well as Prey did. It didn't for me, at least. There are too many issues with this movie, and not even necessarily plot holes, but just things they tried to cram in that were completely unnecessary. And unfortunately, you're left with the sour taste in your mouth that is the alien evolution engineer, whatever you want to call that baby thing at the end of the movie. That being the last note is really, really unfortunate, because I feel like a lot of the other things in this movie are quite strong, and I really did enjoy. We mentioned it before. Andy's a really great actor in this. He did a really good job. I apologize. That's not whoever the actor is that played Andy did a great job.
David Johnson.
Thank you very much. David Johnson did a great job. The aliens themselves are terrifying. The music, the sound effects, the lack of sound effects, all were fantastic. I think some of the characters are a little weak. The writing is a little weak, but I think the actors all did a pretty good job with what they were given. I had fun. And realistically, that's all I'm looking for in an alien movie. I gave it an 85.
Okay, so Will, you gave it a 70. Dan, you gave it an 85.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay. So what can I say about Romulus other than it ended badly, started out great? I think I always tell people I like the first 2/3 of this movie. That's why the fun factor for me was kind of like a 70. Like, it was a 66 out of 100, but there were still some redeeming parts in the last third that I found enjoyable. It's just the last third kind of offended me. And we've been there. We've been to alien babies, and we've been with the engineers, and we've done the goo thing, and nobody really likes that. And it had to go there because for whatever reason, they wanted to take from everything in the franchise, and I can appreciate that. So I guess that's cool. If we're going to have this all be canon, they took from everything and they made a movie. The first 2/3 of this movie were so much fun and so entertaining that I do enjoy this. I like watching it. I will watch it again. I will probably watch it again rather soon, because this is still one of, if not my favorite franchises of all time. The plot had a lot of holes in it. Took me out a lot of times. The special effects were amazing. Almost never took me out. They were incredible. I just thoroughly enjoyed watching the sequences and trying to figure out how they were made, and then I would go watch behind the scenes stuff to see how they were made, and I enjoyed it. It was incredible. The Rook scene was the flaw on that front, and for me it was a rather big one. I also did not like the final scene with the baby alien guy falling out, getting in her face, and trying to crack her little windshield. That looked stupid to me. It was the thing I hate most in movies is when they have this huge climatic ending and they use special effects and blow the roof off with the CGI stuff. I hate when they do that. I hate when we have these weird, crazy CGI monsters at the end. It's dumb. So I really didn't like that. As far as the direction, I think Will stated it really well. I think it was really good. He doesn't have a voice of his own quite yet, but he does a great job of mimicking other people. So that was cool. The best part of this film was the sound by far. I give this a perfect score when it comes to sound and scoring. The sound effects were spot on. The music building up. The music, like, they gave music to many of the characters and themes. Like, they have a Rain musical theme. They have an Andy musical theme, and those are actually reversed of one another, once played backwards. And I just think that is so amazing when they go to such detail to do that. These huge compound sounds that they put through to make different things happening. And then the balls to cut the sound completely during certain moments, knowing that the absence of sound is amazing. If only we could have gotten the absence of sound during that stupid line that Andy delivers. Yeah, that was terrible. Why he just so uncalled for. So yeah, lots of fun. I think it holds up. It was a good movie and all that overall. I think it could have been so much better, but I think a lot of this franchise is just going to be in a place that I just don't like, and I'm going to have to learn to live with it. I'm hoping we see an end to the David trilogy. I know that they have talked about it and that Romulus has put the franchise in a place where they're thinking about doing that. We don't have it specifically yet, but I know they'd like to. And I know that we do have a sequel coming to Romulus. I'm hoping for more Andy and less engineers there. We'll see. And I don't know if the David trilogy could wrap up and make sense of any of this. But this is the final movie in the franchise, and this is the final score I'm going to be giving for an Alien film anytime soon. And this movie, for me, gets a 76 out of 100.
Nice. Okay. So you guys weren't as... You guys were talking super negatively the entire time. You didn't actually come out as hard as I thought.
Potential lost, man. Potential not reached. It was unfortunate. That's why I'm so harsh on this.
Totally fair.
It's a decently watchable movie. No doubt. It's just there's so many problems within it, within the greater franchise of it. Although that said, I still think this is a better standalone watch than maybe Prometheus, because Prometheus should have been a not Alien movie, and then it could stand alone.
Yeah.
Right? So, and
that would change the course of this film, and I think I would like all three portions of this instead of just the first two. Right. And our scores, as usual, run into the same fallacy that we're going to continue having on the franchise rating, which is franchises don't become franchises when they suck, except for Highlander and Home Alone. And so we're going to get decent scores.
Transformers.
You're just proving my point further. Those are the exceptions to the rule. Okay. I don't know. I stopped watching Transformers after like 3. I was like, it's just Michael Bay explosions on a loop here at this point.
Explosions.
So franchises happen because franchises make money, and they're going to put more money into franchises because they make money, and so you're going to get a respectable movie almost every time. You're going to have scores of 50 and up most of the time here on the R rating, because they're franchises,
Mm-hmm. I also would like to remind, with my ratings, I'm always thinking of the genre of the movie itself, and I'm rating within the genre, so that I feel every movie has a fair shot. Yeah, I'm just reiterating maybe for the audience that we're giving the movie a fair shot within its genre, so that it can stand up to other franchises and other genres. Otherwise, you're just going to be like, oh, I despise sci-fi, so bupkis to this, I'm just going to zero it out. That doesn't make any sense.
I think you're right. We all do that to a degree, and I think that's the way to go here, because I'm going to have no trouble putting things side by side that are complete different genres.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And maybe we should take a dive on the next franchise and really look at something. I mean, for one, we got to get away from science fiction, action, horror, right? We got to do something a little different.
Yeah. Well, we also have to make sure there's going to be a next episode.
Wow. Way to taint it at the end, Dan.
Hey, I mean, if I got to just audio dub in from my cell phone as I'm driving down the road, I'm willing to do what it takes.
Amazing.
What is that noise in the background, Ron?
That's fifth gear. Shut up, Dan. I'm making a point here. We could seriously go for a dive of a movie again. I mean, we did start out with Highlander. We could return to something like that if you guys want. I've seen Sharknado in there in chat, so who knows?
There's a lot of Sharknadoes. We don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right. There we go. That's decent. So there we have, after all is said and done, Aliens in second place at 72.
Still
now, we're going to finish off the Mad Max next week. So hopefully that'll be either 71 or 69 or something, so it's not tied with Predator.
I hope it goes up 2 points.
Just so there's another tie on this.
Yeah.
You know what? Even now that there's a tie with there being this many movies doesn't bother me as much as when it was the second franchise. Oh, there's a tie already. I'm like,
double tie.
Cool. I'm shocked that I have the green on this one. I'm shocked that I have the highest score. I guess it's because Brian is more passionate about it. So when it's bad, it hits him harder than it does me. But I really just assumed, this being your favorite franchise, that you would be way up there. Does this surprise you at all?
Just because it's his favorite franchise doesn't mean he can't critique a movie.
Well, and Predator is my second favorite franchise, and it's down there at 64. I don't know why Evil Dead got such a high score, I guess.
So this is why you're leaving, is because you're like, fuck it, I did Predator, I did Alien, I don't want to watch these other movies. They're talking about doing comedies. Screw that. I'm going to watch something else.
Then you got to remember, certain movies kind of carry for me too. You know, Alien and Aliens is by far my favorite in this franchise, and things kind of go downhill from there. But there's such good moments, and the genre is so good for me too. I mean, that's why, you know, I did adjust for Evil Dead, because the horror is not my genre at all, right? But when you break that movie down, Evil Dead gets a pretty darn good score from me. And
there's a reason why Evil Dead is renowned as one of the best horror movies.
Yeah,
I mean, it does a lot of things right. The first Evil Dead, it did a lot of things right, and it was very original in its time. So it stands the test of time. Some of the other ones, obviously, they took a turn to more of a comedic slapstick route, so it varies there. But like that first movie, I think would get highest marks from a lot of people who enjoy horror.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about scoring based on the genre, I agree with that to an extent, where it's like I can put Predator in roughly the same category as I can put The Godfather. Not because Predator is as good as The Godfather, but because when I want to watch an action movie, Predator's a really good action movie. And when I want to watch a crime drama, Godfather's a really good crime drama. So it works in that category. The difference for me, and you can say whether or not you feel the same, is when I'm rating a movie, I'm still rating the movie based on me. So whether or not it's Evil Dead, let's say, one of the best horror movies, I still don't like it. So I'm not going to give it a really good score because it did a lot of things right. It doesn't work for me, and that's kind of why I'm doing this show, is so I can be like, these are my thoughts on a
fun rating in there. Did I have fun? Did it mix well? And that fun factor swings my scores massively on these movies. It's always a huge deciding factor.
Which is what happened on this movie, to be honest, is just I had so much fun with this movie for, 80% of it, that I just was like, yeah, no, I can look past some of the plot holes where I'm like, wait a second, a planet with no sun, that's weird. Wait a second, alien blood floating in space, that's weird. Wait a second, a ship that was evaporated 20 years ago and nothing has moved in space, that's completely bonkers. Yeah. But it's like, they get you where they need to get you to have fun with it. It's like having a DeLorean that goes back in time. It doesn't make a lick of sense, but it's a fun movie, so you just kind of go, yep, okay.
Yeah, and Real Bubba Hotep makes a good point in chat. It's not just the genre. You have to think about the year it came out, the trending movies at that time, and the impact it has as a whole. These are all things that I do think about when I'm rating these. I think about what technology did they have to work with back then when it came to practical effects. And a lot of times that's to the detriment of newer movies that fall back on the easy out of using CGI to fill in something. And if they don't absolutely use that CGI to perfection, I grade them very harshly. And in this movie, Romulus, they used a lot of practical effects for most of it. And I think you can't bring Rook/Ash into this film without CGI, without computer aid assisted, right? And so I do give them props for trying. I just think that they didn't do a good job. And so I was pretty harsh on that.
Yeah, and there was other CGI moments within the film that work just fine. It's just we are not at a point where we can replicate a human. It is what it is, right? Just like we're not at a point that we can have synthetic beings with souls. It's just not, we're not there just yet. We're getting there. Andy was really close. But I feel like, and this is so personal for all of us, how we rate, obviously, and you can tell I hounded on the script so much in this movie because the script to me is the core of the movie. It's the essence of the movie. Without it, you're lost. Without it, there's nothing. And so if that isn't right from the get, it just blows up into problems throughout.
Right,
and
it's
so
the
for
bones
me,
of the film.
for me, I always, that will always trigger my rating a little bit harsher. And even if the movie's bad, I've watched plenty of bad movies. I really enjoyed some of the Highlander franchise movies, but they're not good movies, and I rated them accordingly, right? But I still had a ton of fun.
Right.
That said, when I do have fun, I'm naturally going to rate things a little gentler because, like Dan said, if you're enjoying it, you want to rate it higher. But I do try to keep that in check a little bit because I know I just love bad movies.
I wish I could give you permission to just not have that in check. Just like,
but it's I enjoy that,
crazy. No, but I enjoy like, do you really like this movie? Like, there are movies. I was thinking about this before. Like, if we get to certain franchises, there are movies I can see myself giving a perfect score to.
Right,
a perfect 100.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to get into that right now. Like, spoilers for future.
Can you name a non-franchise movie you'd give a perfect score to?
I would give Snatch a perfect score.
Okay.
There is nothing in that movie that I think is wrong. I think the acting is fantastic. I think the soundtrack is crazy good. I think the acting is good. All of the plots line up really well together. I think the comedy still holds up for me 25 years after it came out.
But you also watched it at a impressionable age.
Oh, 100%. But that's going to play a factor in my score. Like, nostalgia 100%. Will play a factor. And I'm not, like, you guys should allow that as well because that's the point of the show, right? Like, it's our rating of something. The one potential knock that I could give it, and it's not a knock that I would give it, but it's one that I would accept from other people, is the ridiculous amount of language. If you were somebody who's just like, I'm a little sensitive to that.
Score.
But it's not for him. It's not a knock to me. I don't give a fuck. I will swear all day long. I've worked in a jail for far too long. It doesn't bother me at all.
I can always find something that takes it down from 100.
I showed it to my parents, and that's when I noticed there's language in that movie. Well, watching it in my basement, it's a G-rated movie as far as I'm concerned.
So
and then it's
earlier,
like,
I
dog
said
fights.
This movie had a 100 score for sound and scoring. And then as I was talking about it, I was like, oh, but there was that sequence when she's firing the gun and you hear bursts of fire, but you see one bullet hitting an alien at a time, and it didn't match up. And I remember that, so I wanted to go back and change it to 99, but I was already giving my final speech. I was like, fuck it, I'm not doing math again.
Right.
Not that it would have changed it any, but I can always
one point is a hard.
I mean, that's
hard
the whole point. We're movie critics here. We're going to be critical of these movies, and we should.
Sure you are.
Yes, we are. We're fucking professionals here, man.
I wouldn't say we're professionals,
Space
but
Jesus
we're professionals
on this channel. It's happening, all right?
Somebody earlier was asking, like, do you guys have the budget to go to outer space? Like, I think I've earned a cup of coffee at this point. Like, yeah. You guys are doing this for free, and I've made a coffee so far. So, yeah, we're doing fine. Professionals right here.
Yeah.
But, like, not to argue you, Dan, like, for sure, if you're enjoying a movie, you should rate it higher because you enjoy a movie. Like, I legit get that. It's also just not the way I watch movies a lot because, and maybe this is me sounding like a hoity-toity. Like, I took film studies class in university. I've, helped write and produce theater productions. Like, I look at a movie in a different way from, like, building it, not just what you see. So I take different elements into consideration always. And because of that, I think some things rub me in a different way than maybe the average viewer.
Yeah. And we've discussed that, right? Like, we were talking the one time about how I mentioned, like, my wife will walk out of a bad movie and be like, man, the lighting was amazing. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Who cares about the lighting? And she'll be like, no, seriously, like, the scenes were really well done.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, knowing that you come from that perspective, that's totally fine. I don't. And I think
that's why as I'm here as a tiebreaker, so you guys can do your own damn thing, and then I'll tell chat the
real rating.
Yeah.
As a core concept of this show, I personally, and I'm 1/3, and I'm not like hosting out on you guys, like, do what I say. But, like, for me, it's like it's more fun if you're like bombastic with the scoring, right? Like, oh, I fucking love this movie, so I give it a 92. I hated this movie, I gave it an 11. Right? Like,
sure,
one of the Alien movies is 37 or something. I was like, I don't know if it deserved that. Like, I'm
still bombastic of, like, talking about the movie. Like, you thought I was going to tank this movie, but there's I still enjoy the process of breaking down the movie and finding those plot holes and being like, wait, why is this not working? So that part of that is the fun for me. I'm having a great time. It's just the rating specifically is going to be a different reflection because of all these things I'm looking at.
The only thing we could maybe do to make the ratings more bombastic, as you say, is to assume that everything we do is going to get a total score of 50 or higher, and then simply chop off 1 through 49, and then the score is between 1 to 50. You see what I'm saying? And then that makes that so you're zoomed in on the upper half of the score. I'm sorry, you're zoomed in on the upper half of the score, and that becomes a bigger stretch. So the difference of 1 or 2 points is now 2 or 4 points, and it seems like our ratings.
Are you saying that if the movie was a 50%, it would be a 0?
Yeah, it'd be an absolute 0. Because, like I said, with these franchises, most of these films are going to be decent enough. Highlander might drop into the negative just because of that. But
Highlander's a 23. It's at like negative 60 something by that skating.
The other thing we could think about, and we're just talking.
I don't think we should change anything, by the way. I love the way we're doing it. I love the way everybody's rating it a little differently. I have these 7 things that I look at. Will has a list of things that he looks at. Dan, you just make shit up as you go.
I have the same 5 I've always had, you jackass.
If he likes it, he likes it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. That's it.
But literally the show.
But that's the thing, though. If you wanted to, again, this breaks your whole rating system, but we could be bombastic and be like, this is a love it or leave it. And we could just discuss, this is why this is a leave it. And Romulus would be a leave it because there's all these problems I couldn't stop thinking about.
I honestly debated that exact system run. Just like there's 4 scores. 2 thumbs up, 2 thumbs down, 1 thumb up, 1 thumb down. Maybe 5 scores. Maybe have a neutral. Like this is whatever. That doesn't really make sense. Anyways, that might be a thought. I don't know. We're already
the problem with
like
that,
7
Dan,
months into this.
The problem with that, Dan, is that your entire fucking list is going to be like 75% is going to be 2 thumbs up, and then the rest is going to be 1 thumb up. Like that's where it come out because these are franchise films and they're pretty darn good.
But okay, if you're going to the thumb system, and we're way off at this point. I have no idea where the cutoff for this episode is going to be.
Wait. Should we call it a thumb system or should we call it
Romulus? We're talking about everything.
Should we call it a fingering system?
Brian would like that,
Absolutely.
I'm
sure. Absolutely. David's fingering system. Here we go.
It can only go to 15. He's only got 3 hands.
Yeah, that's true.
If we were to do the thumbs up, thumbs down, would that get you guys to be like, this just wasn't for me, regardless of the quality of the movie, and give it a thumbs down, though?
No, I'm probably gonna give everything on our list 2 thumbs up at least.
2 thumbs up is literally the highest score you can give. That is the highest score you can give.
Everything but Highlander. Everything but Highlander is gonna get at least 1 thumb up, probably 2 for like all the Predator. I'll be like, yeah, fuck it, they're good. Except
the
that
Evil Dead
movie
movies that you couldn't watch the screen, you had to watch it in 5-minute increments, would still get a thumbs up from you, even though you're like, I hated this.
It was horror, but I liked it. Like that was horror genre, and it's hard for me to watch. But I was impressed by the films. I gave them high scores. They were hard for me to sit through, right? 2
Dan
girls, 1
us.
cup is not something I want to watch, but it's fucking impressive.
Jesus Christ.
Wow. Is that a franchise or we have to...
I don't know. Did they make a sequel? I don't want to know.
I actually heard they did recently, and I did not check it out or anything. I'm just saying. Ironic that came up because anyways, moving on.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the thing. Is there a perfect system? No. Are you ever going to be happy with the way we rate or think we're rating, I don't know, in a similar light as you? I don't know. I mean, we're all weird, wacky characters. And I think that's good because we all have different perspectives, even if we didn't like it. Or did like it, right?
At the end of the day, I'd rather talk movies with you two guys and have the 45-minute discussion, even if the last 5 minutes bothers me, than not have any of it, or try to like force you guys into a box that you don't want to be in.
Right.
Like that first 45 minutes I live for every week. And like even to the point where now I'm watching movies being like, Will's gonna make a comment about this, Ryan's gonna like that. And I love it. So like don't change a thing. It's just that like Yeah,
The
okay. Some
rating
part of my brain was
tweaking
like, I
part.
wanted the rating system. Like the fact that we went from 70 from Mad Max to 23 from Highlander, I was like, fuck yeah. And then everything since has been like 65 to 72.
But we've
And you're
been
like,
hitting
all right.
cool franchises they're pretty good.
You just said you'd give a thumbs up to everything.
On our list, yeah.
On our list.
Scores for Highlander.
Oh, I thought you meant just in general. I didn't realize you meant of what we got.
No. There's lots of stuff. I mean, let's get into Tremors. It's going to have a good one from the start, and everything else is going to be garbage. You know, like real garbage, Dan. Like, I don't want to watch those movies. We're going to have to get into these franchises that we don't want to watch because we haven't watched them because we know they suck.
I feel like
grading scale.
I feel like we have said this before, but I want to make it official. We're only doing actual movies, right? Like maybe Netflix, but we're not doing like straight to DVD, TV stuff. So like how many of the Tremors does that knock out right there?
Well, it takes quite a few off the list, I think.
Right? Like I think after that, there's like 2 or 3.
Maybe, yeah. I also do think that Brian has somewhat of a point that there's a reason why franchises, if there's 7 movies specifically, there's a reason why there's 7 movies, is that the first couple really establish something universal or something of intrigue or build a world that people really enjoy.
Set the hook.
They set that hook. And so you're always going to get pretty high scores out of those. And then it's going to trickle off. And I feel like Alien, for the most part, trickled off. Not to the extent of maybe Highlander, obviously, like it didn't get that bad, but the world building in this is so much better than in Highlander, which just went all over the map, right? So I do feel like if we are going to pick well-known franchises, except for maybe like the Transformers, which is like modern day franchises, I feel we would rank lower because Hollywood is just effed. But like more classic franchises that have stood the test of time are going to average out at a decent score. A 70 or above, or right around there. I just feel like that's the way it will always hit. So we do have to go extreme in either searching out bad movies, franchises, or watching like new ones, or just accept the fact that, oh yeah, Back to the Future is going to land somewhere in the 70 area because it's got a really good movie and then a couple so-so movies. And so it'll just average out.
I really like it.
Maybe that's just like 1 and 2. Maybe it's a flaw to the rating system in general.
That logic alone makes me want to be like, yeah, that's why you don't score everything a 70. Like,
sure, I don't though. I don't.
No, I know, but I'm just saying.
We gotta just pick some. See, we're picking all these franchises that we know and love. We gotta go off book a little bit here. We gotta dig deeper, and we gotta include some of the straight to DVDs of those franchises.
No,
we just have to, or the scores are gonna remain high. There's a reason they go straight to DVD because it's not a fucking 70, Dan. We gotta include some. We've got to circle back to Home Alone, for the love of God.
Okay, so here's the thing. You said these are all franchises you know and love. I'd seen 3 of the Alien movies, 1 of the Mad Max movies.
Sorry.
3 of the Predators.
When Brian said we,
you have bad taste in films, Dan, because you rated these really high.
When Brian said we, he meant us who have actually seen movies. It's not our fault you didn't watch any movies in the 80s and 90s.
I watched a bunch of movies. I just didn't watch these shows.
You rated it the highest, you doofus.
I didn't mean Alien. I just meant like Mad Max, Evil Dead, Gremlins, Highlander. Like most of these franchises, I was pretty okay skipping. I'm glad I've seen them now, but
Yeah, I mean, it made for some fun talks for sure.
Sure, for sure.
Steven, I don't know, did we include straight to DVD for Highlander? I talked about Highlander 5.
Yeah, you just talked about it. We didn't
scoring.
Include it. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we ended on the one Highlander that mixed the TV with the.
We movie, did the first 4,
but I believe it did go to theatrical release. I'm pretty sure.
And I think that's where we're going to run into trouble if we're not willing to look at the trash of these franchises. They're all going to come out high.
My fear is then what is that? Some of these franchises gets real murky where you go from there, right? Like If you're watching Star Wars, do you include the Christmas special?
I mean, we got to cut it off at some point, but
yeah,
I think with Star Wars, we were talking about breaking it down into 3 trilogies and doing each one separately and calling it good. And then we could even do a 4th one, which is the installments of any of the spinoffs, Rogue One and Solo, right? We could include all of the spinoffs as another franchise if we wanted to, right? We can make up the rules as we go. There's no script to this. Yeah.
And Dan hates it because he loves established rules that you don't break.
I feel like these scores are very bombastic. I think that they are swinging wildly, but you put together all of the films that made it to the silver screen and they're all going to rate high. And if you truncate the DVDs, you're going to find out that it's all going to be on the upper half, but you include Highlander 5 and our shitty Highlander score gets even worse, believe it or not. And if we include the other Home Alone movies, it goes from the top bracket to second from the bottom, maybe even all the way down.
I don't know if it can beat Highlander, but maybe.
I think the first 2 movies will carry it over Highlander.
Yeah,
I do.
Exactly.
Endgame was not our worst scored Highlander movie. I'm just throwing that out there.
It wasn't a good score either.
No, it was not a good score. People were like, oh, it fell off of that last one. I was like, no, it didn't. The last one kind of brought it back. Final was a terrible fucking movie. Endgame was way better.
I just think we should maybe consider including some of the rest of the franchises that come out. Now, most of what we've done doesn't have a straight to DVD movie, or if it did, it was worth watching anyways, or it came out to Netflix and it was still a hot release or whatever. So we really don't have to circle back around to anything other than Home Alone. And then when we do some franchises, like we can just I'm trying not to beat Home Alone, I'm sorry, but it is included. And then you look at something like Tremors, where you have the first movie, which would probably get a really high rating. It was a lot of fun, and there's lots of good stuff to be said about that movie. Jumps into the second one, which I think was straight to DVD, if I recall. And it's trash. And they're all trash after that.
Okay,
right?
So here, I'm going to bring this up.
You're going to have a beloved movie that's going to have a really shitty score as a franchise, and I think that's okay.
So I have been... Here, I'm going to see if I can bring this up. I don't know how well it's going to translate, but here we go. So this is all of our scores for every movie we've done so far.
Can you make it a little bigger?
I don't know, actually. Give me 1 second if I can... What happens?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Can you share this? Can you share this document with me?
I absolutely can. There, that's mildly
a little better.
Yeah, I can read it.
You could read it to us. Tell us when you're talking about something.
Well, no, the point is I have all of the scores. So theoretically, if we wanted to, instead of rating the franchise, we could just rate movies. The poster would get way bigger and you'd be able to see way more of a breakdown. As far as like, oh, well, you know, instead of being like, oh, we gave Alien overall a 70, we gave Predator overall a 70, we gave Mad Max overall a 70, you could actually go through and see each movie and be like, oh, okay, this is where that actually lands. Maybe it's a separate chart. I don't know.
It's hard to put all that data in front of somebody because like right now we can't even see it very well. So I don't know.
Well, sure, but this isn't exactly the optimal way to do it. Like, is there a way?
I mean, Dan, you were bitching about us rating everything in the 70s, but all your scores are pretty similar too. Aside from like Prey really stands out as a different mark.
I just think our sample size is too small, guys. That's all it is. Our sample size is too small. That's part of it.
100%.
We hit more franchises and we have the courage to include the shitty movies that we don't want to spend our time watching. And if chat decides the next franchise, I say we have the balls to watch all of it. And chat can punish us or give us something good. We could just simply limit it to it needs to be of this kind of genre.
This genre this time around, yeah.
Yeah, this genre this time around, and just chat votes on it, and we just go through all of it. And if
I don't know that I have a problem with your overall. Sorry, I'm still thinking about what you just said about the scores. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I have a problem with your score. It always surprises me because you'd be like, like this one, you like shit on the movie, and then give it a pretty good score. And it's like, oh, interesting. Again, I'm not like you're allowed to score however you want. I'm not actually trying to like bully you into doing anything. It's just
no, for sure.
No, I just wanted to be like, likes to point out the differences instead of beating the same drum. Like if I'm sitting over here with a fucking alien boner the whole time, Clean doesn't want to jump on and say all the good things. He wants to point out the flaws.
I wouldn't mind riding the ride for a little bit.
Get that face hugger in you, Clean.
No, that's different.
Not much different.
So, and I kind of tend to do the same thing. Like if you guys have talked about a bunch of good stuff, and a lot of us will all rate the movie kind of high, and there's lots of good stuff to be said. I like to point out, hey, there was this, there was that, there was these things that really sucked. And then you think I'm going to come out with a bad score, but the reality is that I am in agreement with one or both of you on a lot of things. And so my overall score is better than what I was portraying during the conversation, just because I was pointing out shit you guys weren't. That's all.
Yeah. Also, when Dan says good things, I just really want to say bad things. It's just the way it is.
I kind of, and I like that too.
Cleaning Agent is one of my favorite streamers. He's a really nice guy. He's super clean. I think that he's got a great looking face. I love the beard. I think everything he does is just fantastic. Go.
Dan?
No, you motherfucker, about you.
Oh, sorry. No, I disagree. I feel like big time imposter syndrome when it comes to streaming. I don't plan anything. I just kind of go off the cuff. And I really feel like it's a detriment to my stream on a daily basis because I should focus more on quality streaming, putting in things I know, like planning events and things like that would actually maybe put me on the map as a streamer. And I just don't, I don't know. I don't have the confidence or follow through to actually do that. And I'm fortunate enough, very lucky that I started streaming during my gameplay of MSF because the community is so supportive that even a schlub like me could find some followers. And I count my lucky stars every day because of that.
Well, that got serious.
Okay, I was kind of joking before.
That's what Dan wanted. Dan, that's what you want. That's what joking. You get.
Now that you're actually okay, fuck it, whatever. Now we're in this phase. Say what you want. I think you're phenomenal at this, and if you're telling me that you're not even trying and you're this good, I would love to see what would happen if you actually try. Because legitimately, you're incredibly entertaining. You put on a great show, and you engage the audience better than most people I watch.
Dan, I appreciate your kind words. I really do.
Well, those ones actually mean it. All the stuff was before. I just wanted to see you say negative shit about yourself.
When we did my,
then you got real. I was like, oh, okay.
For Twitch, you guys were the two top ones that I watched on Twitch. That should tell you. That should tell you what I think. I'm gonna go take a leak. I'll be right back.
All right. Oh man. Okay. So we know we're doing Furiosa next week, and then Honest God after that, we don't even know what we're doing after that.
I want to. You know what I did?
Can I put you a little bit on the spot?
Oh,
or
please do.
We talk after the
Can
fact?
I say something first?
No.
About Furiosa?
Sure.
I rated that when I first watched it because I didn't know if you guys were going to get to it or not. So I actually rated it.
Yeah,
so I'm going to watch it again and re-rate it without looking at my past notes to see if I am rating the same now as I started when we started this, or if I have varied in some way. I think it's an interesting thought experiment.
I think that's a great idea. I remember you mentioning your score. I didn't write it down. I only wrote down the 4 movies. But I'm super curious. I think it's in that episode. And do you have the notes?
Yeah. Because I just have a running document of like every whatever movie we're doing.
I wish I'd done that. I've got the scores, but I've always like deleted my template and then used the same template for the next one. And it was one of those like, oh, I kind of wish I'd kept those so I'd have my like not only the final score but actually how I got there for all the movies. But so far here, can't talk.
Hey, we're making that as we go.
Here we are.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, what did you want to ask me? Put me on the spot.
Okay, so as far as like Run put his schedule for what he assuming he gets this job and assuming he stays with this job. He said what his schedule is going to be going forward.
Yes.
None of those weekdays are going to work for me, period. I will not be home in time.
Right. And it's only 1 hour anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Friday night, Will already streams, and I don't want to cut into his streaming time.
Right.
Saturday morning, I stream. I could do it then. I don't know how great that'll... I don't love that idea because I really enjoy what I'm doing on Saturday mornings, but if that's the only time that works, that's the only time that works. Saturday evenings are not great for me. Sunday evenings would be good for me, but Brian needs to be done by 7, which is 8 o'clock for me. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so 9 o'clock.
Right. 9 o'clock for me.
Maybe. But what does Sunday mornings look like for you guys?
I can do Sunday morning.
Sunday evening is the best case scenario for me. Similar to like run, like weekends are my real family time.
Agreed.
Right.
So Sunday evenings, my wife actually has other plans already pre-scheduled, so I could probably swing Sunday at this point. And then just off the top, without talking to the family and things, that works the best. I could do an abbreviated short episodes during the weekday, but you said you're really not available, so that doesn't pan out.
I can't possibly be home in time for Brian.
That's more my hopes and dreams, that I'd actually get to just come home and do a quick 1 hour stream of whatever I want to do, just like my own stream during the week. That's what that hour would probably be, if I could even make it work. And I don't know. I'll find out. For me, I like the idea of a Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and I already stay up way too fucking late on Thursday nights because of this show. I would be willing to do that again on Sunday and just drag ass on a Monday morning,
right?
At work.
I mean, I wouldn't want to put you...
Sorry, what do you mean by Sunday evening when you say that?
So...
I wouldn't want to push you too hard there.
What did I write down here? I think I put
you said
Sunday
you said you were good till 7 p.m.
I could stretch that to 9 p.m. at the latest. For me, that'd put you guys at 10 p.m. I would be dog ass tired of work, but I'd fucking do it because I love this show. So
for me, it's not an issue because like your timeline compared to me, I'm 3 hours ahead of you, but I always seem to stay up way later than you guys anyway.
Yeah,
and
you
so
do.
Sunday doesn't worry me as much at any time in the evening. It's actually if you go earlier that it's harder for me.
Right.
So Sunday evenings, I feel like when it works will work really well for me, but it's the most likely time that I have where like we're gonna have family dinners or something is gonna get in the way.
Something comes up,
and I like the set time limit of like Thursdays at 9 or like you know what I mean, like people know when to show up as opposed to like, oh, this Sunday I can't make it, oh, this Sunday I can't make it. Like life is gonna happen, things are gonna come up. That's
once in a while,
that's totally fine. But if it's like 50% of the time, that's gonna annoy me, especially if it's me 50% of the time. It's gonna really bother.
I agree. The host and creator should always be there.
I actually spoke with my wife.
I think there's 3
this.
hosts to this show, but you do you.
And kind of 2.5, but I mean, you guys are trying really hard.
That's a really mean thing to say about Cleaning Agent, but okay.
I'll take it.
I'm 1.5. You guys are mathematically combining the rest there. You do the math. No, I'm saying, so I actually talked to my wife about this just before we went live today, and she was like, actually, Sunday would probably be the best day for you to do if you're going to do anything, because there's just like nothing on the family schedule. And so anytime on a Sunday is great for me. And if you guys want to try and push it back later, I'm totally willing to push that back to say, like I wrote 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'd be willing to push that back to 9 p.m. for me, but it would be a hard, like 9 p.m.
hard
hits.
stop.
I'm out no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, there's been times when we've been doing, I'm like, fuck the quiz, guys. I'm out of here. I gotta go.
So 9 p.m. oh, that's right. We have a quiz.
That'd be 10 for you.
Yeah. Speaking of which, fuck this quiz. I'm out of here.
Yeah. No, that's fine. If that's how I've enjoyed this more than I would enjoy the quiz either way. So if you did 7 and 9, that would be 8 to 10 for me. That's probably pretty doable, actually.
Yeah, because you'd be after dinner then, right? You'd be out of the way.
Yeah, in worst case, even if we're going to my parents' house for dinner or something, I can just be like, cool, like the kids need to go to bed anyways. I just got to get out.
It would basically be the same thing as what I'm doing tonight. I'd be in here a little bit earlier than what we did today, but I've come in at 7 before for these things. It'd be basically the same thing I did today, except I would have quit 1 hour ago. I would have hard stopped 1 hour ago and gone to bed.
Right.
And and it's just a matter of like, we would have to respect that. Realistically, the episode ended 45 minutes ago.
Yeah. We just got to stop chatting and happy-go-lucky over here.
Yeah.
Stop having fun.
I mean,
and there's also something to be said about maybe we just tighten the episodes up a little bit. Like maybe the episodes go to like 30 to 40 minutes as opposed to, 50 to an hour 10.
Yeah, I'm not against that either. I mean, totally. I mean, a lot of times you'll mention something and then I'll retouch on something, and maybe I don't have to do that, right? Like it's out there.
No, that's the fun of the show.
Unless it's like a contradictory, but if I'm just agreeing with you, it's like, oh, I don't have to say that again, right?
The problem is both of you guys come up with things that I don't. Even if you're agreeing with me, sometimes you will agree with me in a slightly different direction or bring up something that I didn't think of, and that's the fun part. So I don't want you to be like, okay, well, we need to not say something because time. I'd rather you say more and be like, oh, cool. Like there's long form content on YouTube that does well, and the Twitch, like the numbers here have been pretty high this entire episode. Like people aren't bored listening to us. So it's not like, oh, we have to get in and out in 10 minutes or else they're going to leave. Yeah. Some people will, but fuck them. They're not our audience.
I did know, like today I would have, I felt my mind running from one thing to another, and I would just go like, we'll get back to that later in the episode. I don't need to run onto it now. And so I was like, and we'll talk about that later. Like I was telling myself that so I wouldn't run on a thing. So I'm still trying to work on that. And then I'm trying to, Dan, I keep trying to remind myself to pitch it to you. And for some reason, I always pitch it to Will instead. Will, what do you think about that?
I think it's because, you know why, though? I think it's because Dan's always pitching to somebody, and then you pitch it to the other person.
Yeah, that's
so it
kind
rarely
of
goes back to Dan, right? It's kind of a weird thing like that. I think that just naturally happens. But
there are times where I don't mind that at all, and there are other times where I'm just like, I have an answer to this question.
Right.
You give the answer and then throw it back, and you're just like, cool.
Hold on to it for too
long.
Behind
you, like, no, I had a point to that. Oh, people are very mean to me.
Yeah,
Bubba Hotep tuned out 30 minutes ago. Windstorm really enjoying your conversation.
It's because you take it like a champ. It's because you take it like a champ, Dan.
I'm just happy to be involved.
Maybe do a poll.
I had to start the show to get you guys here, but now that you're here, I'm just happy to be involved. Maybe do a poll board. Fuck off, don't you?
That's funny.
All right. Furiosa next week. After that, we'll figure out a time, and I will let you guys know in my Discord, !Discord, if you're not already there, what time we'll figure out to do the show going forward. After that one, it'll depend on what's going on with Brian. It'll depend on if I can convince my wife that Sunday nights are a good time to go. There will also be a poll in the Discord for what movie franchise we're going to do next. We will probably pick the franchises, and then you guys choose which actual franchise we do, so that way we don't get something completely left field, because quite frankly I don't want to do another sci-fi right away. We've done a lot of sci-fi.
Yeah, I'm pretty saturated.
And when I say sci-fi, like Back to the Future, like maybe, because that's more of like a comedy than a sci-fi comedy, per se. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to go into another like let's watch people die for an hour and a half, because like all right, we've done that for a while now. But
yeah,
that said,
even if we do just a genre to the audience, and then they can pick movies from there and throw them at us, would be fine too, probably.
Sounds good. All right. So again, if you made it this far, I hope you enjoyed the show. Here is the channel for YouTube for the movies. If you want to catch past episodes, or you want to see this episode once it gets edited down, hit that link, hit the follow button, hit the subscribe, whatever it is. Also, if you want to be included in that poll, here is the Discord where those polls will be. I'll get that up probably tomorrow, or at least by the weekend. Other than that, I assume you guys want to get out of here. Do you want to do the quiz real quick, or you got to go?
I'm out.
You can do the quiz, but have fun.
5 choices. Let's vote. Lord of the Rings extended editions.
I mean,
I have to assume that would get incredibly high scores. Very enjoyable once again, gentlemen. Have a great week. See ya, Hotep. Have a good one. All right. It's already after 11. I think I'm just gonna say good night. Yeah.
Yeah, getting pretty late for me. So tomorrow I do that ride along, and I'm going to be asking lots and lots of questions.
Does that mean you have to get up at 3 a.m. tomorrow?
No, I'm going to go to my regular job with the city, but then I immediately run out there and catch a few rounds that they're going to do, and see how everything goes. I'm really going to make sure that this is right for me, and a better job than I did last time. I was so worried I wouldn't get the job that I didn't ask questions. And now I realize, like, especially after putting out my resume so many places and having a flood of offers come back to me, I realize, oh, okay, I'm a little bit in more demand than I thought. So I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. I'm going to get this really figured out, and I'll have a decision made, and I'll know time slots and everything. And then once I get to it, I'm going to stick with it until I either drive off the side of the road and die or make it a couple of years. At which point I'll be picking a job which will leave the same schedule open to me, so it won't matter.
Right.
Maybe stick with that second option. Just,
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's money and a long, happy life.
Because Dan
I'd
really
much
likes
rather-
this show. Dan really likes this show, so stay out of the ditch, okay?
Yeah, okay.
I was going to say, I'd rather the next episode of our rating be 2 years from now than never. So,
Yeah, because I really don't want to have to move us around to a new time slot. I like this time slot. I don't want to have to do anything. I didn't want to mix anything up. But I love coming here. I love doing this. This is the highlight of my week. It's my mental sanity. It means a lot to me to continue doing this, and I want to. So
it's a fun time.
I don't want to fuck.
And
with
we
it.
want to do it with you. So
Yeah.
Like we were talking behind the scenes
In
of
so many
do we
ways.
replace you, and I'm like, no. You're not wrong. You don't have to put it right on Front Street like that, but you're not wrong.
Oh my
All
God.
right. Cheers, guys. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you. I'll see you Saturday, but we'll see you all next Thursday on our